Cole Miller woke to find himself in bed with his girlfriend's sister. She was naked, tangled around him in an impossibly intimate embrace, her arms and legs draped over him like an octopus. Cole glanced down, and the stark white valley between her breasts nearly blinded him. Just as he decided this had to be a dream, her eyes opened. They stared at each other, gazes locked, and a second later, he was kicked clean out of bed. Luckily, the floor was carpeted. The fall didn't hurt, but something was digging into his ass. Cole reached behind him and pulled out a red bra. Besides the bra, there was a crumpled pair of thigh-high stockings, a silk nightgown, and a trash can emanating the sharp, cloying scent of their night. Even an idiot wouldn't know what had happened. But Cole had no memory of it. He saw Cora Vance clutching the sheets to her chest, her usually placid, composed face fractured with disbelief, her eyes a mixture of shock and alarm. Cole quickly looked away, scrambling to find his clothes in the chaos on the floor. He found his white dress shirt, but several buttons were missing. No time to worry about buttons. He pulled it on, then fumbled with his pants while searching for his phone, finally spotting on the nightstand. Ms. Vance, I'm going to step out. Call me when you're dressed. He fled the room, his thoughts slowly beginning to reassemble themselves in the hallway. He remembered today was supposed to be his wedding day. How did he suddenly end up in Cora's bed? Cora, his girlfriend, Jenna's older sister, his boss. Cole could already imagine the sensationalist podcast title. Local man mysteriously vanishes from his own wedding, only to wake up with his sister-in-law. What drove him to abandon his fiancée of 2 years? Was it a crisis of conscience or a moral freefall? A story of sexual desperation or calculated betrayal? He unlocked his phone. The screen lit up with a photo of him holding a child in one arm, his other arm wrapped around Cora's waist. To any observer, they looked like a family of 3. At that moment, anyone with a functioning brain would realize something was profoundly wrong. Cole frantically opened his calendar. When he saw the date, it finally hit him. He had traveled 5 years into the future. A future where he'd not only broken up with his first love, Jenna, but had also married her sister Cora and had a child with her. For a moment, his mind went completely blank. He forced himself to calm down and opened his messaging app. The first thing he saw was a pinned contact. He'd saved Cora's number as Cora My Love. Cole tapped on it. Cora My Love, by Band-Aids. Me. Are we out? Cora My Love. Out of the large ones. Large ones? What do you use large Band-Aids for? Cole had a gut feeling this conversation wasn't as simple as it looked. He scrolled up and found a complaint from Cora. Cora My Love. My chest hurts. I think the skin is broken. Be gentler next time. It dawned on him. A moment later, his face flushed, his heart hammered, and a high-pitched ringing screamed through his head, nearly frying his brain CPU. He would rather believe the phone wasn't his than accept that the people in these messages were him and Cora. Cora? His boss. The same woman who was always so cool and distant with him at the office? How could she let him do whatever he'd done? It made no sense. It defied all logic. In the bedroom, Cora's entire body ached. She glanced at the trash can by the bed, and the sheer number of used condom wrappers inside made her legs feel weak. All her life, very few things had ever escaped her control. She fought to suppress the turbulent, spiraling feeling in her gut. She scanned the unfamiliar room. Not hers. Not a hotel. She threw back the covers to find herself completely naked. The clothes on the floor were definitely unwearable. Cora grabbed a bathrobe from the nightstand, wrapped it around herself, and walked to the closet. When she opened it, she froze for several long seconds. It was a kaleidoscope of color and chaos. Strange outfits, bizarre costumes. Who in their right mind stuffed a closet full of uniforms? And in the corner, those things that looked like spiderwebs. Could you even call them clothes? What could they possibly cover? Just as a wave of irritation washed over her, her phone rang. The caller ID read, Leo. Full of anger and confusion, Cora snatched the phone and answered. Hello. A little boy's voice came through. Mommy, when are you and Daddy coming home? I miss you. The words hit Cora like a physical blow, instantly extinguishing her anger. She put the phone on speaker, listening to the child's voice while she searched the phone for clues. It didn't take long for her to accept the impossible. She was 5 years in the future, married to her subordinate and former brother-in-law, with a son. She looked at the pictures in her photo album. A little boy with a small backpack and a little yellow hat, holding a cotton candy. His arms were chubby with baby fat, like a cherub from a painting. When he smiled, he revealed perfect white teeth, his cheeks rosy. Her anxiety miraculously melted away. Leo asked, Mommy, why aren't you talking? Is the signal bad? Hearing the sad little tremor in his voice, Cora couldn't help but soften her own. Mommy's busy with work. Then I won't bother you. I just called to tell you that I miss you. I miss you so much my tummy hurts. I think about you and Daddy when I'm sleeping and even when I'm going potty. The sweet, bubbly voice made her laugh. She clutched her hand over her heart. I miss you too. Leo whispered a reminder. When you're missing me, don't forget to buy me a present. Okay, I'll buy you a present and come home today. After hanging up, Cora remained lost in thought for a long time. She had become a mother, pain-free. Once the reality settled, she went to the bathroom. Standing before the mirror, she let the bathrobe slide off her shoulders. 5 years had left their mark. At 33, she was more womanly, radiating a potent mix of sensuality, confidence, beauty, and intensity. The most immediate change was her breasts. They were fuller, and despite having a child, her stomach was flat, with no stretch marks or excess fat. Cora's skin was pale, making any mark stand out. As she looked at herself, she immediately saw the bruises on her chest. Clearly, they were Cole's handiwork. His scent still clung to her, a brand seared into her skin. A scorching heat spread through her body and lingered. The unfamiliar physical reaction made her skin crawl, her temperature rise, the corners of her eyes turning pink. Her lips were unnaturally red and swollen. Cora touched them lightly, then quickly looked away, her eyes landing on the bathtub. Beside it was another trash can. What was inside was even harder to ignore. 30, flirty, and apparently thriving, she thought wryly. Unable to look any longer, she grabbed a handful of tissues and threw them on top of the evidence. Life was not easy. Sigh. The bedroom door clicked open. Cole shot to his feet, as if jolted by electricity. Cora emerged, dressed in a stunning red dress. He had always known she was beautiful, but she usually dressed in simple, professional attire, a rotation of black, white, and gray. After a while, you get used to anyone's looks. But now, in a dress so vibrant and completely out of her usual style, she was like a ray of sunlight piercing through the winter gloom. He was so captivated he couldn't look away. Cora sat down across from him. Sit. Facing her, Cole felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, a fishbone stuck in his throat. Every time he looked at her, the memory of what happened 20 minutes ago, or what he thought happened, flashed in his mind. Cora quietly studied him. He had changed a lot, too. Compared to 5 years ago, he was bursting with testosterone, incredibly masculine. She remembered the first time she'd seen him. It was raining, and he was standing at her door in a food delivery uniform, looking like a drenched puppy. He was soaked to the bone, but the food in his hands was perfectly dry. At the time, Cora had simply admired his dedication, handed him an umbrella, and never expected to see him again at a company interview. After a rigorous selection process, Cole became her assistant. He didn't disappoint her first impression. He had a great attitude, was meticulous in his work, and most importantly, he was perceptive, which helped her immensely. There was no denying it. Cora had a soft spot for Cole, but it was the kind of admiration one has for a dedicated employee, not the kind that leads to marriage. Cole was a promising subordinate, a trusted work partner, and, most critically, her sister's fiancé. She racked her brain, but couldn't come up with a single plausible reason why she would have married him. Ms. Vance, Cole said, breaking her train of thought. Cora got straight to the point. Do you understand what's happening right now? I do. Her gaze was sharp, analytical. What were you doing before you came here? Cole answered honestly. I was in a car accident on the way to the wedding ceremony. I hit my head, and when I woke up, I was here. He and Jenna had known each other for 2 years, dated for less than 1. It might sound unbelievable, but in their vastly different worlds, it was Jenna who had pursued him. He was an orphan, with no family connections or money. To him, Jenna was a star in the sky. He first met her at the hospital. Jenna had broken both her legs in a skydiving accident, facing the risk of paralysis. The long hospitalization had changed her personality, making her anxious, lonely, and depressed. She threw things, had fits of rage, and even engaged in self-harm. She only started to improve after Cole showed up. After that, Cole worked 2 jobs, as Cora's assistant and as Jenna's private physical therapist. It was exhausting, but the pay was several times his normal salary. Cora had been a good boss, holding his position for him so he could focus on helping Jenna recover. Once Jenna was fully healed, he could return his job. Cole swore to himself that he never had any inappropriate thoughts while caring for Jenna. He was paid to do a job, and he did it diligently. Besides, taking care of Jenna was no simple task. He was constantly running around, so tired that he'd fall asleep the moment his head hit the pillow. He had no energy for anything else. He never expected Jenna to contact him after she recovered. She started showing up at the office with lunch for him, asking him to movies and coffee, sending him good morning texts every day. Soon, the entire company knew the boss's younger sister was chasing him. Faced with the passionate pursuit of a beautiful, wealthy heiress, what man could resist? It wasn't long before Cole was won over. Their relationship progressed naturally, right under Cora's nose. Jenna's parents had a good impression of him and didn't object, only asking him to take good care of her. Who knew that in 5 years, he'd end up taking care of her right into Cora's bed? Knowing himself, Cole was certain he would never cheat. If he were to get married, he would absolutely choose the person he loved. And for the text messages, it was clear he loved Cora. Unfortunately, the phone didn't offer much more information. He had no idea how he and Cora had gotten together. He imagined the process must have been incredibly difficult, more difficult than he could ever fathom. Cole asked, "Ms. Vance, what were you doing before this?" "Working." Cora was a workaholic. She had been working late the night before the wedding, right up until the next morning. She was about to take a short nap when she opened her eyes and found herself here. Cora said, "Tell me everything you know." "We have a son. His name is Leo. He's 4, and he's in preschool." That was all he had managed to gather from his social media feed. At the mention of their child, they both fell silent. It was normal to have a child after 5 years of marriage. But this child was almost 4. That meant Cole and Cora must have gotten together shortly after the ill-fated wedding. Marriage and a baby, all in one go. Could they have had a shotgun wedding? Cora found the thought incredible. It would have shattered every rule she'd ever set for herself, violated her most fundamental principles. Cora asked, "In these 5 years, have you been in contact with my sister?" "Her contact isn't in my phone." "I don't think so. What about you, Ms. Vance?" Cora hadn't checked yet. She searched for Jenna's name on her phone. Nothing. Apparently, she had deleted her. Of all the men in the world, she had chosen to marry Cole. And she had even cut ties with her own sister for him. Was this really her? Did this make any sense? This twisted relationship, this marriage, felt like a rope tightening around her neck. Cora leaned back on the sofa, pressing her right hand to her forehead. "Leo called me earlier. He asked when we were coming home. If there's nothing else, let's head back now. We can strategize in the car. We can't let anyone see that something's wrong. We have to keep each other updated if anything tricky comes up." Cole immediately agreed. "I'm with you, boss." Cora corrected him. "You should probably call me by my name now. Or, wife. Anything else will raise suspicion. Let's just try to maintain the status quo for a while. A 5-year marriage involves a lot. Not just assets, but a child. Divorce was a last resort. It would trigger a change in the company's ownership structure, requiring a new audit. Venture capital firms would reassess their risk. And now they had a child. As Cora's assistant, Cole understood these implications immediately and agreed to follow her lead. What was the golden rule of the corporate drone? The boss is always right. Whatever the boss says goes. With the right attitude, the office could be your own private Bali. And if your boss becomes your wife, well, in a way, that was a promotion. Cora was a classic workaholic, decisive, efficient, with a strict command of her time. Having figured out the current situation, she immediately contacted her secretary to get her work files organized. Cole watched as she sat on the sofa, legs crossed elegantly, her focus entirely on the tablet in her hands. As her voice filled the living room, Cole went back to the bedroom to pack. He had a sensitive nose. He could still smell the faint, cloying, biological scent of sex in the air. Opening the window wasn't enough. He sprayed some air freshener, too. There were 2 suitcases in the room. Unsure which was his, Cole opted for the larger one and unzipped it. Well now, a whole collection of, staring at the various adult toys packed inside. Cole shut his eyes, hoping it was a hallucination. He silently zipped the suitcase closed and went to the bathroom to splash cold water on his face. He looked at himself in the mirror, a stranger, yet familiar. He couldn't believe that in the blink of an eye, he was 31. The 31-year-old him was more built. When he tensed, his muscles were rock hard, especially his pecs. He flexed in the mirror for a moment, then noticed the red mark on his neck. He pulled down his collar. There were more on his collarbone, his chest, and a few scratch marks on his back. He couldn't have done those himself. The thought of him and Cora doing all sorts of wild things in this very room made his face burn. He splashed more cold water on his face, trying to wash the X-rated thoughts out of his brain. He needed a distraction. Cole decided to clean the entire room. The seemingly light trash can was surprisingly heavy. Cole found a large garbage bag, put all the smaller bags inside it, and carried it out to the living room. "Ms. Vance," he said to Cora, who was still on the sofa, "I'm taking out the trash." Cora grunted him without looking up. Only after he had left did she raise her head and glance toward the front door. She had been pretending to work, but she had been watching him out of the corner of her eye. When she saw him pick up the trash bag, her heart skipped a beat. She wondered if he'd noticed the lipstick-shaped massager she'd tossed in there. Cora was a very private person. She was one way at the office, another at home. She had started taking over the family business at 18. For someone in her position, emotional instability was a liability. She had to remain calm no matter what, never showing her true feelings, wearing a mask to hide her thoughts. To find out what happened 5 years ago, Cora did a quick search online, but found nothing. As for her wedding to Cole, it had been a very low-key affair. There was no news of it online. Marrying her sister's ex-fiancé was a scandal. It was just like her to suppress the news to avoid any damage to her reputation. Cora anonymously hired a private investigator, but the detective refused the job, replying, "I wouldn't dare. The Vance family has locked down everything about those two. Besides, they've been happily married for 5 years. Why stir up trouble?" Cora was speechless. So the P.I. was a dead end. She'd have to probe people around her for information. Aside from the business with Cole, Cora had already gotten a handle on most everything else. The people around her were the same. Her secretary was still her secretary. Her work was still familiar. She handled it all with ease. The only real good news was that her career had soared in the past 5 years. More properties, more money, and a network that had expanded internationally. The Vance Group was now one of the top 50 companies in the country. No one disliked money or power. Cora would occasionally pass the time by adding up the balances on her various bank cards. So why not just focus on making money? Why get married and have kids so early? Cora couldn't figure it out, so she filled in the blanks with plots from the cheesy romance novels her phone's algorithm pushed on her. A one-night stand leading to an accidental pregnancy, a shotgun wedding. She couldn't even focus on the financial reports on her screen anymore. Cole returned from taking out the trash with breakfast. "Ms. Vance, I bought breakfast." After he said it, he met Cora's gaze and immediately realized he needed to change how he addressed her. "Oh, huh." After years of calling her boss, calling her honey felt like trying to swallow hot coals. Cora put down her tablet. "If you can't say honey, just use my name." "Cora." The word came out stiff, but at least he'd said it. "Look me in the eyes and say it again." Cole did as he was told. "Cora." "Softer. Try calling me Cora, like in the voice messages." Cora was as patient as a kindergarten teacher guiding a child through an arts and craft project. She corrected him over and over. "Don't feel pressured. If you can't get past me, you'll definitely raise suspicion." Their son alone would see right through it. Hearing this, Cole immediately thought of their text history. He didn't just call her honey, he called her baby. Compared to that, Cora didn't seem so hard to say. He hesitated. Cora didn't rush him, just watched him with those dark, piercing eyes. He had to cast aside all his reservations and treat this as an urgent work assignment. With that thought, Cole's workhorse mentality kicked in. He met her gaze again, his expression as determined as someone about to swear an oath. The name came out strong, but the end of it carried a soft, intimate lilt that unexpectedly tugged at the heartstrings. Cora met his eyes and quirked her lips into a small smile. "That'll do for now. What did you get for breakfast?" Cole let out a quiet sigh of relief, holding up the bag. "Sandwiches and coconut milk. Simple and nutritious, Cora's usual breakfast." In his years as her assistant, he'd gotten to know her preferences well. Cora nodded and walked over. "Put it on the table. We'll eat together." It wasn't the first time they had eaten together, but it was certainly the most awkward. He didn't seem to have full control over this body. He kept sneaking glances at Cora. He saw the faint red marks peeking out from her collar, the wedding band on her ring finger. He had a matching plain band on his own hand. There was a distinct white line where the ring sat, a clear sign it hadn't been taken off in a very long time. The inside of the ring was engraved with their initials. He wondered if hers was too. Cora spoke suddenly. "Before we go back, let's stop by the toy store and get a gift for Leo. Any recommendations?" Cole shook his head. The most he ever played with as a kid was mud. He'd been envious of other kids with their water guns and action figures, but he figured their son probably had all of that. He'd scrolled through the photo album on his phone and seen Leo surrounded by all sorts of stuffed animals. "Maybe we should call and ask him." "Yeah, I guess we'll have to." Cole finished his breakfast in a few bites. "Want some coffee?" A cup of black coffee in the morning was a long-standing habit of Cora's. She nodded. Cole brewed a cup. The aroma was rich and deep. He wasn't a fan of coffee himself. It smelled great, but tasted bitter. If he needed to pick me up, he preferred tea. He placed the mug to Cora's right. "Careful, it's hot." The high-quality beans left a faint sheen of oil on the surface of the coffee. Steam mixed with the aroma and drifted upwards. After letting it cool for a few minutes, Cora took a sip. She frowned. It was bitter. After drinking coffee for so many years, she found she couldn't quite stomach it. She thought maybe he'd switch brands, but a glance at the bag showed it was her usual one. How much had changed in 5 years? Even her tastes were different. She stared at the cup, wanting to add milk and sugar. The bitterness killed her appetite. She put the half-eaten sandwich down. Cora's every move was noted by Cole. When the boss had no appetite, it was his job to show concern. Is it not to your liking? Should I get you something else? No, it's fine. I'm not hungry. While Cole cleaned up, Cora gathered more information. For instance, Cole was no longer her assistant. They had come on this trip just to get away, to have some time to themselves. They had only brought a driver. To avoid suspicion, Cora told Cole everything she had learned. They shared information, trying to get a handle on their new lives and relationships. The hardest part? Running into people they were supposed to know, but didn't. Their social circles had undoubtedly changed over time. And then there was their son. He was theirs, but they didn't know him at all. The thought of having to deal with a child sent a wave of pressure crashing over them. Honestly, the 31-year-old Cole was nothing like he had imagined. He never thought he'd be in this kind of relationship with Cora. But for what he could gather, one thing was clear. This future Cole loved Cora, and he loved this family. The 26-year-old him had no right to interfere with the 31-year-old Cole's life. He couldn't destroy the home he had worked so hard to build. Cora called the driver, then went back to the bedroom to pack. Looking at the suitcases, she asked, "Which one is mine?" Cole immediately pointed to the one on the left. "That one's yours." The one on the right filled with all those toys. He figured his future self must have been overcome with lust, possessed by a reckless desire to have bought all that. Some thoughts, once they take root, are hard to suppress. Like the blush-inducing images now flashing through his mind. Adult toys were normal enough, but using them on Cora seemed completely out of character. He must have bought them secretly and hidden them in the suitcase. Cora noticed Cole's tense expression as he stared at the right-hand suitcase. And not only was he staring, his face was turning red. The left suitcase was empty. Cora looked around and just packed her skincare products. "Okay, let's go." Cole naturally took the suitcase from her, his eyes darting to her neck. "Let's go. What are you looking at me for?" Cole looked as if he'd made a momentous decision. "Do you need a scarf?" Cora understood instantly. She subconsciously covered her neck, remembering the marks she'd seen in the mirror. She shot him a glare, then opened the closet, found a silk scarf, and tied it around her neck. After being glared at by Cora, Cole felt like he was on fire. He grabbed both suitcases and hurried out. He had committed the crime, but at the same time, he hadn't. He was suffering the consequences without having planted the seed. It was an unsolvable riddle. All Cole could do was silently take the blame. He practically fled. Cora watched his retreating back, his strong arms, the long legs outlined by his dress pants, and that taut-looking waist. It seemed Cole had been eating well and working out these past few years. He was much more built than he had been 5 years ago. Cole walked ahead, pressed the elevator button, and waited for Cora. The driver had the car parked on the lower level, visible as soon as the elevator doors opened. "Ms. Vance." The driver saw them and opened the trunk, taking the suitcases from Cole. "Mr. Miller, let me get those." Being called Mr. Miller still felt strange. The 31-year-old Cole not only had a wife and child, but was also the owner of a gaming company. Some of the hottest games in recent years were his investments, and he had made a fortune. He looked at the numbers on his bank account and felt like he was dreaming. No, even in his wildest dreams, he wouldn't have dared to imagine this. Cole opened the car door for Cora. He got in after her. The interior was spacious, the back seats soft and comfortable. Once the driver was in, he skillfully raised the partition, separating the front and back seats. As they drove out of the garage, the bright daylight streamed through the windows, warming their skin but also feeling harsh on their eyes. Cora squinted. "Frank, go to the toy emporium first." "Yes, Ms. Vance." Cole's attention was drawn to the children's stickers inside the car. On the doors, the seats, the little charm hanging from the rearview mirror. Worried about blowing their cover, Cole didn't dare speak, instead secretly observing his surroundings, taking in the changes of the past 5 years. Cora said, "Call Leo. Ask him what kind of toy he wants." Cole took out his phone. The thought of talking to his son made him nervous. The call connected. Cora whispered, "Put on speaker." Just as Cole switched to speaker, a child's voice came through. "Daddy." The sweet, milky voice instantly made Cole feel like a father. Was this the power of blood ties? "Leo, Mommy and I are about to go to the toy store. What do you want us to get you?" "Don't you know what I want?" Cole was speechless. "Kid, If I knew, I wouldn't be calling you. Leo was a clever little boy with a bubbly voice. Hearing him, you could almost picture his pouting face. He explained very seriously, I like anything mommy and daddy get me. I like surprises. If I tell you, then it's not a surprise. Cole was taken aback that such a small child could be so articulate. He paused, then asked, what are you doing right now? Grandma's playing with me downstairs. I met up with Sadie and Dylan. We're making paper airplanes. Have fun and be safe. Leo asked, Daddy, when do you think you'll be home? Will you be back for lunch? Cole glanced at Cora, asking with his eyes. Cora shook her head. Cole replied, not for lunch. We'll probably be home this afternoon. Okay. Cole hung up and looked at Cora. I guess we'll just have to browse when we get there. We can pick out a few things. One of them is bound to be a hit. They could probably muddle through with the kid. The real challenge was his grandparents-in-law. Their families were worlds apart, and he had broken up with their younger daughter only to turn around and marry their older one. He messed with both their daughters. Any good impression they had of him must have been obliterated. If it were him, he'd probably have had his legs broken to vent some of that anger. Cole's stomach twisted into knots. His heart felt like it was being squeezed, tightening and releasing in a relentless rhythm. They soon arrived at a massive toy emporium. Frank parked the car, and Cole and Cora got out. They found a store that looked promising and went on a shopping spree, their only goal being to fill the trunk. Frank, the driver, was clearly used to this. He showed no surprise, simply following behind them as their porter. It was at least a 4-hour drive home from here. If he could, Cole would have preferred not to go back so soon. To be safe, he thought he and Cora should spend more time studying and analyzing their situation, getting a complete picture before facing everyone. Going home now felt like being rushed to the slaughter. Cole voiced his concerns to Cora. I still don't know how to act around our son or your parents. Cora replied, just be natural. My parents shouldn't be a problem. The fact that we're married means they've completely accepted you. I looked at my chat history with them. They ask about you often, and we have a family group chat. You can listen to the voice messages in the car on the way back. And practice. Cole asked, practice what? How we interact. Noticing Frank's gaze in the rearview mirror, Cora proactively linked her arm with Cole's, pressing her body close to his. Don't be so stiff. You have to remember we've been married for 4 years. We're seen as a loving couple. You need to get used to calling me by my name, calling me your wife. I can do that now. It's not enough. Listen to how you talk to me on the phone. Okay, I'll listen as soon as we get in the car. The moment they were back in the car, Cole put in his earbuds and started listening to the voice messages between him and Cora. If it weren't for the fact that looking at his phone in a moving car made him sick, he would have spent the entire drive digging through every corner of it to familiarize himself with his current job. That's how a dedicated worker's mind operated. Even if he won the lottery, he'd still punch in for the rest of the month to get his perfect attendance bonus. Cole listened intently, the messages playing automatically from top to bottom. If he didn't recognize his own voice, he would never have believed the ridiculously sappy man in the recordings was him. Words like honey and baby rolled off his tongue more smoothly than the last. There were normal conversations, and some not-so-normal ones. The not-so-normal ones made his skin crawl and his toes curl. Good thing he wasn't driving. If he were, listening to this stuff would cost him his license at best, and a decade in prison at worst. He'd have slammed on the brakes so hard he'd wear them out. Cole closed his eyes, ignoring the twitching at the corner of his mouth. Anyone would have thought he was asleep. The next second, a weight settled on his shoulder. Cole's eyes flew open. Cora was leaning against him, her eyes closed, her body tilted towards him. Her collar was slightly open, revealing a hint of something intriguing. Cora smelled wonderful, a mix of perfume and shampoo that kept distracting him. He was so startled he didn't dare move. The voice messages were still playing in his ear. Right then, one from Cora came on. Honey, I miss you. From my skin to my bones, from the surface to the depths, from the inside out. Cora's soft, languid voice, practically purring with flirtation, played in his ear. Cole's heart seemed to skip a beat, then began to pound in a chaotic rhythm. He froze as if petrified, his body rigid. It took a long moment for him to regain feeling. He turned his head to look at Cora. She was fast asleep, completely relaxed, her breathing even and steady. Strands of her dark hair tickled his neck as the air conditioning blew gently. Her eyelashes rested on her cheeks, and sunlight fell on her head, casting a golden halo around her face. Up close, he could see the fine, downy hair on her skin. Cole watched her for a moment, holding his breath, afraid to make a sound. Once he was sure she was deeply asleep, he carefully took out a blanket and draped it over her, simultaneously lowering the window shade. Cora was a light sleeper. He remembered from their work trips. The slightest noise would wake her during her afternoon naps, and she would quietly complain about uncomfortable hotel beds. But now, she was using his shoulder as a pillow, her soft cheek pressed against him, showing no signs of waking. In fact, she shifted to get more comfortable, her face rubbing against his arm before she slid down to rest in his lap. Worried she might fall, Cole reached out and caught her, instinctively adjusting her into a more comfortable position. He looked at the partition between the front and back seats and finally understood why the driver put it up as soon as they got in the car. Could 5 years really change a person so completely? So much that they became a stranger, even to themselves. The spacious backseat was probably designed for exactly this kind of thing. Cora's breathing was shallow, like a small cat curled up on a pillow in winter. Her soft exhales near his ear sent a ticklish, warm sensation through him. Cole suddenly felt parched. He grabbed a bottle of water from the door pocket and drank half of it in one go. The weather was hot today, at least 100 degrees, he thought. In reality, it was barely 85. It was just his own inner turmoil, his racing blood, that was skewing his senses. Cole took a deep breath, trying to concentrate, but his attention was completely derailed by Cora's voice messages. He listened to her call him honey in every possible tone, sometimes sensual, sometimes playful like a thick, comforting porridge or a glass of fine, aged wine. Cora seemed to feel a bit cold. Pillowing her head on his thigh, she snuggled closer to his stomach, thankfully with her face turned away. Cole felt restless, on edge, his hand gripping the window frame tightly. He could only imagine how awkward it would be when Cora woke up. Maybe he should pretend to be asleep when she does. Yes, that was a good idea. With that thought, Cole leaned against the window, propping his head on his hand. The car, which had felt so spacious moments ago, now seemed tiny, so small he didn't know where to put his limbs, feeling trapped in his seat. The atmosphere was suffocating. His mind reeled with images, mostly centered on that morning, in that bed. He wasn't sure how long they'd been driving when Frank's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Miller, what would you like for lunch? There's a Sichuan place nearby, Cantonese, Hunan, Shandong. The one with the highest rating is... The driver's voice woke Cora instantly. Cole, who had been planning to feign sleep, instinctively opened his eyes at the sound of his name and found himself looking right at Cora. Silence. The deafening silence of the car. At that moment, he wished he could just disappear under the vehicle. Cora, just woken up, had messy hair and watery, unfocused eyes. She stared blankly for a half-second before realizing the situation and immediately sat up. To cover her embarrassment, she asked, "What time is it?" Cole checked his phone. Almost noon. Frank was just asking about lunch. What do you feel like eating? Something light. Then let's do Cantonese. Frank, pick a place with good reviews. Will do. The driver turned the wheel, and Cora, who hadn't braced herself, lost her balance and fell toward Cole. Cole reacted instantly, catching her. Careful. Cora had been about to say thank you, but then thought better of it. A husband and wife saying thank you would seem too formal, wouldn't it? She swallowed the words, unsure of what to say. She raised the window shade, and sunlight poured in, illuminating Cole's reddened ears. Cora felt a pang of frustration. She was a poor sleeper and had trouble falling asleep. Yet today, she had slept so soundly against Cole for over an hour. She sat up straight, her hair still a bit messy. She rubbed her face. She wasn't sleepy anymore, just a little dizzy. At the restaurant, the three of them sat at one table. Cora and Cole ordered while the driver sat opposite them. Cole had no idea how his future self acted as a husband, so he had to rely on his imagination. He figured if he loved someone, he'd want to take care of her, serving her food, making sure she liked the dishes. Luckily, his time as Cora's assistant had taught him to be observant, so it wasn't too difficult. After the meal, the driver went back to the car first, leaving them some space. Only then did Cora bring up what had happened in the car. In the car, earlier. Why didn't you wake me up? As soon as she said it, the image of her sleeping with her head in his lap flashed in Cole's mind. You looked like you were sleeping so soundly, I didn't want to wake you. Cora said, chagrined, if it happens again, just wake me up. Cole replied, I will next time. Will there be a next time? Cora attributed it to this new body. This body had developed a deep reliance on Cole, an unconscious reflex beyond her brain's control. 5 years ago, she never would have slept so deeply in a car, let alone on a man's lap. Cole, his expression unchanged, comforted her. You were just tired. Don't worry about it. Right? She was just tired. But why was she so tired? The culprit was him. Cole obviously realized this too. After all, he was the one who had taken out the trash that morning. The sheer volume of it suggested they had been up all night. Could it be that their future selves had died from excessive passion, and that's how they had ended up here? His attempt at comfort only made both of them feel more awkward. Back in the car, Cole went back to his voice messages while Cora looked at her phone. An empty seat separated them like a demilitarized zone. After a while, Cora started to feel sleepy again. This time, she fought it, choosing to listen to voice messages like Cole to pass the time. She couldn't put herself in the shoes of the woman in the recordings, so she just listened as if it were an audiobook, her only job to mimic the performance. They arrived at the Vance residence at 3 in the afternoon. The house wasn't overly crowded with staff, a nanny for the child, a chef for cooking and groceries, a household manager, and a dedicated cleaning lady. The thought of facing his in-laws made Cole's knees feel weak. After listening to the voice messages for hours, Cole had gone from cringing so hard his toes curled to a state of complete numbness. He now felt terrifyingly powerful. He stuck a glance at Cora beside him. A boss was a boss, after all. Always composed, always calm and collected. Cora was looking through a cloud-based photo album. In the pictures, she was holding their son, leaning against a man's chest, the three of them wearing matching family outfits. Cole was drawn to the photos on her phone, unable to resist looking with her. "He looks so much like you," he commented. "They say sons look like their mothers," and it was true. Leo had inherited the best features from both his parents, especially his large eyes, which were a mirror image of Cora's. Cora wasn't against marriage. She just hadn't wanted to get married yet. If you asked her what her standards were for a partner, the first would be good looks. Looks set the baseline, talent set the ceiling, and parental genes determined the next generation's starting line. Clearly, Cole met this criterion. If he hadn't, she wouldn't have married him and had his child. Leo did look a lot like her, but if you looked closely, you could see traces of Cole, especially when he was asleep. Cora replied, "He looks like you too. He has a mole in his eyebrow, just like you." The mole was hidden within his brow, hard to spot unless you were looking for it. Cole felt a jolt. He slowly looked away. The car fell silent again. A moment later, his phone vibrated. It was a text from Cora, sitting right next to him. "Cora, actually, I'm nervous too." "Cora? Nervous?" Cole glanced at her quickly. She was still looking down at her phone, their chat window open on the screen. Cole, who had been on edge, suddenly felt a surge of confidence. He replied, "The first step is always the hardest. I've got your back." As her former assistant, he was ready to charge into battle at her command. After reading the text, Cora turned to look out the window, a small smile playing on her lips where Cole couldn't see. A woman showing vulnerability had a fatal attraction for a man. It triggered his protective instincts. Cora didn't really need Cole to protect her. She just wanted to encourage him. The scenery outside became more familiar. Soon, the car turned into a gated community. As Cole looked out the window, the car stopped, and he heard a loud shout. "Mommy and Daddy are back." The moment he saw the car, Leo wriggled free from his grandmother's hand and ran over, flinging himself at Cole's leg as soon as he opened the door. Cole looked down at the little boy clinging to him like a barnacle. He was even cuter than in the pictures. Cole scooped him up. His son was a warm, solid weight in his arms. Lifted up, Leo giggled happily, his small hands wrapping around Cole's neck, nuzzling him like a puppy. Cole asked, "Did you miss Daddy?" "Yes." "How much?" "I even thought about you during my nap." As he spoke, Leo planted kisses on his father's face, his own cheeks flushed and rosy. Cora stood by stunned. Cole showed no discomfort with his newfound son. His eyes were filled with genuine affection and love. He seemed to radiate a paternal glow that was almost dazzling. When Leo saw his mother, he wiggled in Cole's arms, reaching out his chubby hands. "Mommy, Mommy." The boy was small, but not light, especially when he squirmed like a slippery eel. Worried he might fall, Cora reached out and supported his upper body. He was a heavy, sweet-smelling bundle, his soft hair brushing against her neck, his chubby cheeks even softer than she had imagined. Cole kept a firm grip on his bottom, afraid she wouldn't be able to hold him. "Easy now, don't fall." "Mommy kisses." This child was a stranger to her. She had spent the whole ride wondering how to interact with him. But when she saw him, her body reacted faster than her brain. Without any mental preparation, she had instinctively held him. Leo demonstrated just how much he'd missed his mother by planting a face full of wet, slobbery kisses on her. Her face was soaked. Cora looked at the little limpet attached to her, her stiff posture gradually softening. She leaned in and kissed his cheek. "Kisses to you too." Having been kissed by his mom, Leo blinked shyly. Perhaps sensing she was struggling to hold him, he voluntarily wriggled back into his father's arms. "Daddy, where are my toys?" Cole teased. "Did you miss Daddy, or did you miss the toys?" "Both. I have a surprise for you guys, too." Cole asked, "What surprise?" Leo looked mysterious. "You'll see." Cole, holding Leo with one arm, opened the trunk with the other. Staring at the mountain of gift boxes, Leo's mouth dropped open. "Whoa, what are all these?" "A surprise for you." "This is a really big surprise." Leo was a great audience, his eyes wide with shock, as if he'd never seen such a thing. "It's not even my birthday. Why did you buy so many toys?" Cole asked. "You don't like them?" "I love them," Leo quickly declared. "Daddy, put me down. I want to open them." He flapped his legs like a seal. Cole carefully set him on the ground. He and Cora watched, amused, until they weren't. Leo pointed at one toy. "Daddy, we have this one at home. Why did you buy it again? And I don't play with these kinds of blocks anymore. And that teddy bear. Grandma just gave one away a few days ago, and you bought another one." Their worst fear had come true. A child from a family like this wouldn't be short on gifts. The videos and photos showed that Leo had plenty of toys. Cole had worried about buying duplicates, so he had purposely chosen odd and unusual ones, only to find they perfectly matched his son's existing collection. What now? He remembered the text he'd sent Cora. "I got your back." Trouble had arrived right on schedule. Cole exchanged a look with Cora, then looked down at Leo and played dumb. "I forgot. I didn't mean to buy duplicates." "You forgot." Leo was a sharp kid, not easily fooled. "Did Mommy forget too?" Cole said. "Your mommy wasn't paying attention." Cora nodded in agreement. The excuse clearly didn't satisfy Leo. He mumbled, "Daddy, you have a really good memory. How could you forget so many things?" Cole pulled an excuse out of thin air. "I was sick with a fever the last couple of days. My brain's not working right." Hearing that his dad was sick, Leo immediately grew concerned. "Are you better now? Did you see a doctor? Did you take medicine?" "I'm much better now. Why don't you look through the rest? Keep the ones you like, and we can give the others to other kids." They had bought a lot. He couldn't believe they were all duplicates. Thankfully, among the pile of gifts, Leo managed to find a few that he liked. Cole wasn't sure if they had passed the test, but he felt a little guilty. It wasn't Cole's first time here. To him, the last time he'd visited was 3 days ago, but now 5 years had passed. His only impression of the place was one word: extravagant. The guest bathroom was bigger than his entire bedroom. The decorations looked simple, but a quick price check would reveal a level of wealth that was obscene. No matter how many times he came here, he never felt comfortable. The moment he stepped inside, his skin began to itch. Cora, walking ahead, glanced back at him, signaling for him to keep up. As she walked, she took in the changes around her. If it weren't for the unchanged exterior, she would have thought she'd walked into the wrong house. The changes left her with a complicated mix of feelings, a speechless bewilderment. Who could explain to her why there was a claw machine completely out of place in the middle of the living room? Why had the rocking chair where she used to enjoy her afternoon tea been replaced with a coin-operated kiddie ride? And why had the expensive stone sculpture she'd commissioned been swapped out for a giant Ultraman figure? The small courtyard, once filled with tulips, was now a miniature playground. Children's toys were scattered everywhere. Crayon marks decorated the wallpaper, and stickers covered the wine cabinet. Cora was a neat freak with a touch of OCD. The sight of a messy house made her want to call for a cleanup crew. But now, she wasn't sure if she had intentionally left the stickers and scribbles on the wall. Leo ran ahead with his toys, shouting, "Grandma, Mommy, and Daddy are back." "I hear you." Eleanor's voice came from the kitchen. A pang went through Cora's heart. She quickened her pace. "Mom." Eleanor turned around. "What is it?" Coming to the future, perhaps the hardest thing to accept was seeing one's parents' age. Her mother was 58 this year. She took good care of herself. You'd think she was in her 30s. Her face was rosy, her hair dark. She hadn't changed much. Cora breathed a sigh of relief. Then she noticed the apron her mother was wearing. "What are you making?" "I'm making soup." In her memory, her mom was a disaster in the kitchen. Well, had she learned to make soup? Eleanor hadn't known how to cook before, but after Cora got pregnant and had Leo, she had learned a few things from the household cook. She discovered that making soup was the easiest. The cook would prepare the ingredients, and all she had to do was follow the recipe and set a timer. The best ingredients often required the simplest cooking methods. As long as the ingredients were fresh, the soup wouldn't be bad. Eleanor now knew how to make over a dozen different kinds of soup. Seeing Cora, Eleanor quickly waved her over to taste it. Cora sipped the soup while sneaking glances at her mother. Eleanor asked, "Is it good?" Cora pursed her lips. "It's good, just a little bland." "Bland? Let me try." Eleanor took the bowl from Cora, scooped a little soup, and tasted it. "It is a bit bland, but it's better for the soup to be bland. It's healthier for the kids." Leo leaned over the counter, his eyes wide with anticipation. "Grandma, I want to try too." Eleanor immediately picked out a piece of meat for her precious grandson, blowing on it until it was cool before putting it in his mouth. Careful with the bones. Eat slowly. The little guy was very complimentary. As if he had just tasted the most delicious thing on earth, he exclaimed dramatically, "Wow, this is so delicious. Grandma, you're the best." Eleanor beamed with pride. "If you like it, eat more. Grandma will make it again." Cora finally understood how her mother had learned to make soup. With this kind of encouragement, it was impossible not to improve. However, the body doesn't lie. After chewing the meat in his mouth, Leo didn't want any more. He held up his new toy. "Grandma, this is my new toy." Eleanor gave it a token compliment. "Oh, that's nice. Grandma, Mommy and Daddy bought me a lot of toys that I already have. Daddy said he was sick and forgot." "Sick? Is it serious?" Cole had just walked in when he heard his darling son tattling on him. Luckily, Eleanor's focus was on the latter part. "It wasn't serious. I'm all better now." Eleanor had a gentle personality and treated Cole like her own son. She didn't hold it against him for dating both her daughters. In fact, she had always liked Cole. Setting aside his family background, he was flawless in other aspects. Handsome, good-natured, responsible, and most importantly, a devoted family man who was sincere in his relationships. In her social circle, sincerity was a rare commodity. When Jenna had injured her legs, it was his meticulous care that had gotten her back on her feet. She was both grateful and felt a little guilty towards Cole. "As long as you're better. Want some soup?" Eleanor asked gently. Cole glanced at the steaming pot and couldn't refuse. "I'll just wash my hands." When he returned, Eleanor had already ladled a bowl for him. "Thanks, Mom." The word Mom came out surprisingly easily. After all, he had been listening to it all day and preparing himself. "You silly boy, why are you thanking me today?" Eleanor teased. Aside from the professional cook, Cole was the best cook in the family. As he drank the soup, Eleanor watched him, seeming to value his opinion even more than her daughter's. Cole finished the soup. "It's delicious." Eleanor asked. Cora said it was a little bland. "What do you think?" Cole glanced at Cora first, weighed his options, and said, "The soup is a bit bland, but that's okay. It's healthier, and you can taste the natural flavor of the ingredients." "That's what I said." Cole put down his bowl, looking for something to do. "What else needs to be done?" Eleanor said, "Nothing. You two go rest. The housekeeper and I have got this." Cora tugged on Cole's sleeve. "Honey, let's go upstairs and put our suitcases away." That honey just rolled off her tongue so naturally. A boss was a boss. Her tolerance and adaptability were far superior to his. Her expression and actions were flawless. She was a natural actress. With that, Cora affectionately linked her arm with Cole's and led him out of the kitchen. He knew she was acting, but that one word, honey, felt like an ant crawling up his spine. After 4 years of marriage, they were seen as a deeply loving, model couple. To avoid arousing Eleanor's suspicions, they had to appear intimate. The second floor was where the bedrooms were. It was Cole's first time upstairs, so he had to stick close to Cora. She opened the door. Even though he had expected changes, he was still shocked by how different her bedroom was. Cora's bedroom was huge, with everything you could possibly need, like a luxury hotel suite. Everything had been replaced, even the bathroom. The old solid door had been swapped for a glass one. As Cora surveyed the room, Cole's mind was on the single bed. How are they going to sleep tonight? Sleeping in separate rooms was out of the question. With so many people in the house, if they were seen sleeping apart, everyone would assume they'd had a fight. If worst came to worst, he could just grab a blanket and sleep on the floor. He'd slept in basements before. This was luxury by comparison. Cole saw Cora staring at the glass bathroom door, lost in thought. He asked with concern, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" Cora pulled her gaze back. "I'm not used to being around children." Cole wasn't used to kids either, but Leo was an exception. Maybe it was blood ties, but he had liked him from the moment he saw him. Not only was he adorable with his round head, but he was clearly very smart. "Just be yourself," he said. After all, Cora's natural demeanor was cool and reserved. Even if she was a little distant, no one would think anything of it. Cora walked up to him. "And what am I normally like?" "Proud, serious, aloof, focused solely on work, all business, rarely smiling." Cole chose his words carefully. Reserved. He was almost envious of people like her. A storm could be raging inside, but on the outside, they were the picture of calm. They didn't have to talk if they didn't want to, didn't have to rack their brains to please others. Cole set the suitcase on the floor. It was his habit to unpack immediately upon arriving home, but he had forgotten what was inside this particular suitcase. It would have been fine if Cora weren't there, but she was standing right in front of him, looking down at him. The moment he unzipped it, The collection of little toys inside was exposed to both of them. One of them, accidentally switched on, began to buzz and vibrate. Slam. Cole snapped the suitcase shut. He took a moment to organize his thoughts, then explained, "Listen, I was just as surprised as you are when I saw these. I was going to get rid of them secretly." There was no point in explaining. In the end, the 31-year-old Cole had bought these things. What did it have to do with his 26-year-old self? Cora said, turning to leave. "You take your time unpacking. I'm going out." Her steps were a little unsteady. Cole watched her go, wondering if the toys had scared her. It made sense. What kind of normal person packs a suitcase full of this stuff? Anyone who saw it would think he was some kind of pervert. Never mind Cora. He was scared of himself. The thought of using those things to do things sent his mind into a panic. His heart hammered against his ribs like a fish flopping on dry land. Who would speak for him? For the 26-year-old him. He really wasn't a freak. Cole found a black plastic bag and threw everything from his suitcase into it. Technology was advancing. Times were changing, and even these things were becoming more and more sophisticated. The key was their discreet design. You could put one on a table, and it would look like a decoration. And their functions were endless, catering to every possible user need. He quickly finished unpacking. While Cora was gone, he started to familiarize himself with his surroundings. The bedroom had great lighting, with a large floor-to-ceiling window. Cole didn't move around much, just let his eyes scan everything, from the bed to the bathroom, from the vanity to the walk-in closet. He couldn't help but think of Jenna, of their past together, of every little moment, of how she would have looked in her wedding dress. When he was dating Jenna, he had always felt insecure, constantly working through their issues, right up to their wedding day. He thought they had finally made it, but then this happened. It just went to show, being in love wasn't the finish line. A wedding wasn't the finish line. A marriage certificate wasn't the finish line. You never knew when an accident would come and shatter all your plans. He caught his reflection in the vanity mirror, his face a mask of sorrow. Why'd they break up? Who initiated it? He had a car accident, so what happened to the wedding? What happened to Jenna? Did they break up because of the accident? He kept asking himself, trying to find an answer in the recesses of his body's mind, but it was a blank slate, like a memory sunk to the bottom of a vast ocean. Cora walked down the hallway, observing the changes. She wasn't actually that reserved. A strict upbringing had just taught her how to hide her true self. She carried the weight of the family business on her shoulders and had to be flawless. Years of suppression had made her appear cold. But a cold exterior didn't mean a cold heart. Those things in Cole's suitcase, they weren't bought by him. They were bought by her future self. She had seen them in her online shopping history. It just proved that one shouldn't be too extreme. Suppress yourself for too long, and eventually you'll snap back. But Cora never would have guessed that after marrying Cole, she would become so bold, so risky. She even started to wonder if she had forced him into this marriage. But why would she force her own sister's fiancé? It made no sense. She really didn't understand her future self at all. Walking along, Cora suddenly stopped. In front of her was a photo wall. This wall used to document her and Jenna's childhood. But now, only her own pictures remained. Cora knocked on the bedroom door. "Are you done unpacking?" Cole pushed aside all his negative thoughts. "All done. Let me show you around." Cole walked beside Cora, listening as she quietly pointed things out. Some places he was seeing for the first time, yet they felt strangely familiar. He chalked it up to muscle memory. It was a good thing. At least he wouldn't get lost. Downstairs, Leo was sitting on the floor, playing with something. When he saw his parents come down, he pushed himself up. "Mommy, Daddy, look. This is the surprise I made for you." Cole went over. It was a handmade picture frame, constructed from newspaper and white glue, then painted. It was actually quite nice. Leo didn't say anything, just looked up at them with his big, watery eyes, watching their expressions. Cole ruffled his hair, offering sincere praise. "Did you make this yourself? It's amazing. I don't even know how to do this. Can you teach me?" In a child's eyes, parents are the most capable people in the world. And now his dad was asking him for lessons. What did that mean? It meant he was even more capable than his dad. A look of pure happiness and satisfaction spread across the little boy's face. Leo nodded vigorously. "It's super easy. Mrs. Davis taught us. It was a craft project from school." Knowing the kid's limited abilities, the teacher had kept it simple with low expectations. Most kids would just glue some sticks or chopsticks together and call it a day. But not Leo. The little guy was competitive. He had to do every assignment to the best of his ability perfectly. In that, he was just like Cora. He might be less than 4 years old, but he was focused and patient, with strong language skills and a logical way of speaking. He was like a little teacher, instructing Cole on how to make the frame. Cora sat on the sofa, watching the father and son engrossed in their project. It was a picture of domestic bliss, a scene she didn't want to interrupt. Until her father came home. Nearly 60, Robert Vance had an imposing air of authority that commanded respect without a word. The first time Cole met the chairman, he had been completely intimidated by his presence. In front of him, Cole was just a raw recruit. After he started dating Jenna, Robert never said anything, but the look in his eyes said it all. Cole understood. You work hard to raise a beautiful daughter, only for some pig to come and root her up. He'd be mad too. The first to see Robert was Leo, who shouted, "Grandpa!" Robert beamed. "Hey, my little treasure." If anyone had changed the most in 5 years, it was Robert. His hair was streaked with white. The wrinkles on his face had deepened, making him look even more stern. He rarely smiled, except when he saw his grandson. Then his face would soften as if he had a mouthful of candy. Robert asked in a gentle voice, "What are you making?" Leo said, "I'm teaching Daddy how to make a picture frame." "Grandpa, I'll give it to you when I'm done." "Dad," Cora and Cole said in unison. Robert looked at them. "Why didn't you stay a few more days?" Cora replied, "I have a contract to sign." As she spoke, she watched her father expertly pull out his phone and start recording, with Leo posing and showing off his work for the camera. Cora couldn't believe the man squatting on the floor to get a better angle was her father. Compared to 5 years ago, he was like a different person. After recording and offering some praise, Robert got into play and called Cole over for a couple of games of chess. Cora took Cole's place, continuing the craft project with her son. Robert loved to play chess, but he was terrible at it. People around him always found excuses to decline a game. In the end, only Cole didn't mind, and had been a steadfast opponent for years. They didn't just play chess, they also went fishing and played sports together when they had time. Their relationship had grown closer, more like brothers than in-laws. Cole was a bit nervous at first, as his own chess skills were mediocre at best. Halfway through the game, he finally understood why Robert liked playing with him. To put it nicely, they were evenly matched. To put it bluntly, it was a classic case of two amateurs hacking at each other. Robert was having a great time. "Now that was a satisfying game," he exclaimed. They played for an hour or two, until Cora came to call them for dinner. Cole stood up and walked behind the others, waiting for everyone to be seated before taking his place. Dinner included shrimp, Leo's favorite. He didn't eat first, instead placing a shrimp in Cora's bowl. For Mommy, shrimp was one of Cora's favorites too. A child's behavior is a reflection of the adults around them. Cole saw this and quietly began to peel shrimp, placing the meat in Cora's bowl. Cora's heart stirred as she looked at the peeled shrimp. It had been a long time since anyone had peeled shrimp for her. She said, "Thank you," then quickly added, "Honey." Cole's adaptability was strong. The word honey no longer threw him off. The atmosphere at the dinner table was pleasant. After a moment, Cora decided to test the waters. "Mom, about Jenna." The moment the words left her mouth, the table fell silent. Even a housekeeper walking by froze. Of all the people at the table, only Leo was oblivious, a large shrimp in his mouth as he looked from one person to the next. Robert put down his bowl. Why bring her up out of the blue? Eleanor's lips were pressed into a thin line. She didn't say a word, but her expression was complicated. No one answered. Cora could only assume the worst. Had something happened to Jenna? She tightened her grip on her chopsticks. Jenna was the little sister she had watched grow up. They were close. She was 5 years older, and when Jenna was in high school and needed someone for a parent-teacher conference, it was Cora who had gone. Cora couldn't read her parents' expressions, so she probed further. "I was just wondering when she's coming back." Robert's face was grim. If she can't figure things out, she can stay away forever. Everyone in their circle knew the sisters had fallen out over a man. But who was to blame? It wasn't Cole's fault, nor was it Cora's. In the end, it was Jenna's own doing. On the day of Cora and Cole's wedding, many people had come, but Jenna was absent. Not because she didn't want to be there, but because she had been barred from entry. It caused a bit of a scene that day, but it was nothing compared to the scandal of her and Cole's own failed wedding 5 years prior. The mention of Jenna gave Eleanor a headache. Both were her daughters. What parent didn't want a harmonious family? She couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if Jenna hadn't run out on her wedding. She suspected it wouldn't be as good as things were now. Jenna had been spoiled, was impulsive and reckless. Even if she had married Cole 5 years ago, they probably would have ended up divorcing. Leo had never met Jenna. Hearing the unfamiliar name, he asked curiously, "Who's Jenna?" Robert put a shrimp in his bowl. "Eat your food. No talking." The rest of the meal was unnervingly quiet, only the sound of chewing filling the silence. Cole's feelings were a tangled mess. He felt full after 2 bites, but couldn't just put down his chopsticks, so he nursed a bowl of soup. After dinner, Eleanor suggested a walk. Robert didn't want to go, but fell in line after she shot him a glare. Cole was about to ask if he should join them when Eleanor said, "Cole, you don't have to come. You just got back today, and I'm worried about your leg. You and Cora should get cleaned up and rest early. You have to take Leo to preschool tomorrow." The walk was really just an excuse to let her grandson play outside. Leo had plans with his friends and wouldn't want to come home once he started playing. Eleanor's words made Cole freeze. His leg? What was wrong with his leg? After watching the three of them leave, Cora asked in a low voice, "Do you want to see Jenna?" Cole didn't dare give a simple answer or remain silent. Things are the way they are now. Seeing her wouldn't change anything. It might even cause unnecessary trouble, and it would be incredibly awkward. One moment, he was marrying Jenna. The next, he was her sister's husband. He had been with Jenna for a long time. Their feelings were deep. He couldn't just forget everything because of a time jump. The situation made him feel like he was cheating, caught between a rock and a hard place. Cora looked at him, her eyes unreadable. "I hired someone today to investigate what happened over the last 5 years. We should have the truth soon. Don't worry too much. At least we can be sure the fault wasn't yours." Cole asked, "Do you think we can go back to 5 years ago?" Cora said, "I don't know. If we can't go back and have to stay here, would you divorce me?" Shouldn't the decision to divorce be in her hands? But since she had asked, he had to think carefully before answering. It didn't take him long. "No," he said, "but it's ultimately up to you." Marriage and divorce were not small matters. It would be simpler if it only involved two people, but now they had a son. Cole had been raised by his grandmother and had always longed for a happy family. He couldn't deprive his son of something he never had. He couldn't just shirk his responsibility because his soul had been swapped. That wouldn't be fair to the child. He thought of his grandmother. He had no idea how she was doing now, if she was healthy, if she was eating and sleeping well. In Cole's memory, he just called her this morning. The little old lady had been in high spirits, talking a mile a minute, saying how he used to be as skinny as a bean sprout, and now, in the blink of an eye, he was all grown up and getting married. Cora watched Cole freeze in place. "What are you thinking about?" Cole's voice was a little heavy. "My grandmother. I was just wondering if she's okay." Cora fell silent, too. She knew Cole had a grandmother in her late 70s or early 80s. For people that age, you never knew which would come first, tomorrow, or the unexpected. And now, there was a 5-year gap to account for. Cora had already braced herself for the worst. "Why don't you give her a call right now?" Under Cora's gaze, Cole pulled out his phone, found his grandmother's number, and dialed. The call connected, ringing for a long time, but no one answered. "I tried this morning, too. No answer." "She probably hit the silent button by accident and didn't hear it," Cora offered, finding a plausible reason for him. Cole thought so, too. His grandmother had always been tough as nails, rarely getting sick. Once he'd started earning good money, he'd taken her for a checkup every year. He trusted that the him of the past 5 years had taken good care of her. He thought about calling the home care aide who helped his grandmother to ask why the old woman wasn't answering her phone all day, if maybe something was wrong with the device. He scrolled to the aide's number, but his hand paused over the screen. He hesitated, then, after a long moment, he lowered the phone. "I'll go back and see her tomorrow." Without a second thought, Cora immediately agreed. "You should. I'll go with you." "You don't have to. I can go by myself." Before Cole could finish, Cora cut him off. "You came with me to meet my parents. It's only natural that I go with you to meet your grandmother. Does it seem right for your granddaughter-in-law to not even know what she looks like? Besides, if I go with you, your grandmother will be happy to see me. You don't want to disappoint her, do you?" Cora laid out a series of reasons he couldn't refuse, and Cole could only nod in acceptance. Seeing the tension in his face, Cora knew his mind wasn't at ease. She got up, poured him a glass of wine, and handed it to him. "Have a drink. It'll help you sleep." "Thanks." Cole took the glass and clinked it against hers, the crystal making a clear, crisp sound. Cora hadn't poured much. She downed her glass in one go and said, "I'm going upstairs to shower. Take your time." Cole sat on the sofa as Cora's form slowly vanished from his peripheral vision. He still felt a gnawing anxiety, but her presence brought a fleeting moment of peace to his restless heart. Why did Cora suddenly bring up Jenna today? The moment they were out the door, Eleanor and Robert Vance were already dissecting the day's events. Robert shook his head. "If you can't figure it out, I definitely can't." Eleanor stroked her chin, deep in thought. "Do you think she and Cole had a fight?" Robert's eyes widened. "I doubt it. Their relationship has always been so good. I've never seen them argue." Eleanor shot him a withering look. "If you were capable of noticing something like that, this family would have fallen apart years ago." Eleanor was more sensitive to atmosphere. She could feel that Cora and Cole were different today. They seemed a bit more distant, less intimate than usual. She replayed a few details in her mind, her certainty growing. Something was off with them today. Something's definitely wrong. Robert was meticulous with his business, but oblivious in his personal life. He hadn't noticed a thing and thought his wife was overthinking it. Oh, come on. It's normal for couples to have little disagreements. They kiss and make up. We've been married for decades. Haven't we had our share of friction? It would be weird if there were never any conflicts. Eleanor frowned, ignoring him. Robert thought it was a small matter, but Eleanor clearly didn't. He scratched his head, then nudged his wife's shoulder with his elbow. How about this? I'll call Frank and ask if the driver knows anything. Go ahead. Eleanor watched him pull out his phone and make the call. After a series of questions, Robert didn't get much, but Frank had the same feeling as Eleanor. He also thought Cora and Cole had been strange today, quiet the whole ride, barely speaking. Robert personally felt that no matter how serious it was, it couldn't be divorce-level serious. Leo came running from a distance, throwing himself into Robert's arms. Grandpa, it's raining. Where's it raining? Just as he spoke, a drop of water landed squarely between his eyebrows. Robert's eyelid twitched, and he stood up, scooping his grandson into his arms. Let's go back inside. It's raining. Leo squirmed out of his grandfather's hold, sliding down. I can walk myself. The rain had come out of nowhere. What started as a few scattered drops quickly became a downpour, drumming against the ground. Leo held his grandmother's hand, his little legs pumping furiously. By the time they got back to the house, his hair was soaked. Cole was at the door holding an umbrella, about to go out and meet them, when he saw them return. Dad, I'm back, Leo announced. Cole handed the umbrella to Eleanor and swept his son up in one arm, carrying him inside. The rain is so heavy, Leo said, burying his face in his father's shoulder. Dad, where's Mom? Mom's taking a shower. I want to take a shower too, Leo said quickly. My skin feels all sticky and gross. Cole ruffled his son's damp hair. Okay, I'll take you right now. Leo had a mind of his own. After his bath, he had to choose his own clothes and his own towel. Dad, I want to wear the blue pajamas today. Blue pajamas? Leo's closet was filled with all sorts of clothes, neatly arranged and hung by color, easy to see at a glance. Cole took one down. This one? No, the one with the sun on it. Cole searched but couldn't find it. I don't see it. How about a different one? I remember now. I put on my teddy bear this morning and left in your bedroom. Dad, can you go get it for me? Why couldn't he get it himself? Because his grandmother had taught him that when Mom and Dad were in their bedroom, he wasn't supposed to go in without permission. Urged on by his son, Cole had no choice but to go. Cora's probably not done with her shower yet, right? He thought, already standing at the bedroom door. He pushed it open and heard the steady sound of water from the bathroom. One's eyes are naturally drawn to sound. Cole's glance was meant to be casual, but that one glance made his heart stop. The glass shower door was fogged with steam, but under the bathroom lights, the door was practically for show. Cora was perfectly silhouetted inside, the shape and tone of her body clearly visible to anyone outside. What kind of person installs this type of glass for a shower door? He hadn't noticed at all earlier that it was transparent. Cole didn't dare look again. He lowered his head, his eyes darting around the room, finally spotting the pajama-clad teddy bear near the foot of the bed. Did Cora know the shower door was transparent? For a couple 5 years in love, a transparent door might be a fun, intimate touch, a way to enhance their connection. For them, right now, it was a torment. Cole suppressed the turmoil in his heart, picked up the bear, and tiptoed out of the room. In the nursery, Leo had already dutifully stripped off his clothes. Seeing Cole return with a distant look, he asked curiously, Dad, why is your face so red? Do you have a fever? No fever, Cole said curtly. Here's your bear, and don't just leave it anywhere from now on. He hadn't just left it anywhere. Leaving it somewhere meant forgetting where it was. He remembered very clearly. Mom and Dad hadn't been home the last 2 days, and he missed them, which is why he went into their room. Leo pouted, taking the bear from Cole and starting to undress it. Suddenly, he remembered something else. Dad, my little yellow ducky from my bath is in your room too. Cole stared at him. Do you absolutely need the duck to take a bath? Meeting his father's dangerous gaze, little Leo blinked nervously and wisely replied, I can wash without the duck. Then get in. Cole filled the tub with warm water and had Leo test the temperature. He'd never bathed a person before, but he'd washed a dog. He figured it was more or less the same. Cole expertly squeezed body wash onto a loofah, working it into a lather. He washed Leo's hair first, then his body. Dad, be gentle. Dad, I got water in my eyes. Cole didn't say a word, just kept scrubbing. The bath nearly brought the poor kid to tears. Leo was left wondering if he'd done something to make his dad mad, completely unaware that his father's mind was entirely occupied by images of his mother, with no room left to deal with him. Finally, it was over. Cole wrapped him in a big towel, quickly dried him off, and dressed him. Go brush your teeth. Leo stood on the stool in front of the sink, grabbed his toothbrush, squeezed out some toothpaste, and conscientiously brushed his teeth in front of the mirror. When he was done, he opened his mouth for his father's inspection. The boy had a routine. He wasn't a picky eater, didn't dawdle at bedtime, didn't linger in bed in the morning, and could even entertain himself. Even without an adult around, he could quietly get on with his tasks. Just like now. After wiping his face, Leo found a bedtime story and climbed into bed. Okay, Dad, you can go back now. And that was it. Cole took 3 steps, looked back once, and slowly left the room. When he returned to the master bedroom, Cora was already out of the shower, drying her hair with a blow dryer. Hearing the noise at the door, Cora looked over. Were you just in here a minute ago? Her expression was natural, as if she knew nothing. Cole replied, Yeah, I was getting Leo's pajamas. Did you find them? Cora asked. Found them, and I gave him a bath. Cora's hair was thick and long. Her arm always ached when she dried it. In moments like this, she wished someone could help her. Feeling that her scalp was dry, she turned off the dryer. You go wash up. I'll go check on Leo. As soon as Cora left, Cole went to inspect the shower door. No wonder he hadn't noticed the problem during the day. You could only see through the glass when the light was on inside. Furthermore, when the doors were slid open and overlapping, you couldn't see through them either. Even more bizarrely, someone outside could see in, but the person showering inside couldn't see out. Cole suspected that the door had been installed backward by mistake during the renovation. Now came the problem. How could he tactfully and non-awkwardly suggest to Cora that they replace the shower door? When you can't solve a problem, pass it on to someone else. The worst-case scenario was that she'd see him, too. Then she'd know the door was transparent. He was a genius. With that thought, Cole opened the closet. His and Cora's pajamas hung together, mostly matching sets, sorted by color and style. Cole recalled the style of pajamas Cora had been wearing and accurately selected the matching men's version from the closet. The bathroom was large and spacious. Cora's skincare products were on the counter, and the scent of her body wash lingered in the air. Maybe it was because he knew the door was transparent, but Cole's shower was a tense and difficult ordeal. He stripped off his clothes, turned on the water, and just rinsed himself indiscriminately, using a single bottle of body wash from head to toe without switching. He only paused when he got to his legs. There was a long scar on his calf, like a centipede clinging to his skin. The scar tissue was white, and its length suggested a very serious injury. In the rush this morning, he hadn't even noticed the scar was there. Cole measured it with his hand, about 7 inches long. Even after 5 years, he could see the marks where steel plates had been fixed. No wonder Eleanor had been worried about his leg. A bone injury might look healed on the surface, but it would ache on damp, rainy days. How'd he get this injury? It couldn't really be that Robert beat him for stealing his prize daughter, could it? His brain short-circuited for 2 seconds, a sharp, needle-like pain shooting through his head. Cole immediately stopped thinking, rinsed the foam from his leg, and turned off the shower. Meanwhile, Cora knocked on the nursery door. Only after Leo said, "Come in," did she open it. "Mom." Seeing his mother, the little boy's eyes lit up. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to come spend some time with you." Cora sat on the edge of the bed. "What are you looking at?" Leo pointed to the illustrations in the book. "Marine life. Do you need me to explain it?" "I can understand it. Just look with me, Mom." Cora sat with him for a while, until Leo rubbed his eyes and yawned. "Mom, I'm going to sleep now. You should go to bed soon, too." It was still raining outside. Through the window, she could see the shadows of trees swaying in the wind. Cora had been terrified of thunderstorms like this as a child. "It's raining and thundering tonight. Do you want Mom to sleep with you?" As soon as she said it, she saw Leo staring at her with a strange expression. "Mom, I'm not afraid of thunder. You should go sleep with Dad. A son has to keep his distance from his mother. I can't turn into a mama's boy." Cora fought the urge to let her mouth twitch. "Who taught you that?" "Dad, of course. Isn't that what he always says? That when you grow up, you have to learn to sleep by yourself. A real man has to be brave and can absolutely not become a mama's boy." He remembered when he used to sleep with his parents. Every time he woke up, he'd be back in his own room. At first, he thought it was magic. Later, he learned that his dad would sneak him back after he'd fallen asleep. The moment he learned the truth, his entire world had crumbled. But life didn't stop just because his world fell apart. In the days that followed, he and his dad engaged in a fierce battle for bed space, but he lost every single time. No matter how much he cried or protested, his dad remained unmoved. This endless struggle had left him physically and mentally exhausted. At a young age, he began to realize that perhaps this was his destiny. Now, he was used to sleeping alone. He wasn't afraid of the dark, not afraid of thunder. He didn't need his parents to sleep with him. As Cora listened, she pictured a deadpan Cole saying those words and couldn't help but chuckle. After laughing, she stroked Leo's head. "Leo, you're so brave. That's wonderful. Now get some sleep. Good night." Hearing the praise, Leo beamed and waved his little hand. "Good night." Cora placed a kiss on his head, then stood up and left. Back in the master bedroom, she saw Cole sitting in a chair, reading a book. He looked like a larger version of Leo. "Not sleeping yet." Cole stood up, putting the book down. "Do you have any extra blankets or pillows?" "What for?" "To sleep on the floor." Cora stared at him silently for a long moment. "We've already decided to continue being husband and wife. Are you really planning on sleeping in a separate bed?" Cole hadn't expected her to be so direct and was momentarily stunned. "Let's just sleep together. The bed is huge." Cora sat on the bed. "Sleeping on the floor for a long time isn't good for your body. Besides, I'm not so selfish as to hog this entire bed for myself." Cora had her reasons prepared and even gave him an easy way out. If Cole still refused, he would be snubbing her. Cole figured there was no point in being coy. The bed was more than big enough for two people. It wasn't like they hadn't slept together before. Cora got into bed first, claiming her spot. She lay with her back to him, listening to the soft, rustling sounds of him getting into bed behind her. The mattress dipped slightly, and then Cole's unique presence enveloped her from behind. "I'm turning off the light." "Okay." With a soft click, the room was plunged into darkness. The room was dark and silent. Cora rolled over, looking at the hazy silhouette beside her. So, Cole was that far away from her, each of them on one side, with an invisible line drawn down the middle. As her eyes adjusted to the dark, Cora could gradually make out the profile of Cole's face. She thought to herself, if she hadn't said anything tonight, if she had agreed to let him sleep on the floor, how long would he have done it? A lifetime? He was always so earnest, so inflexible around her. As long as she didn't give him the nod, he would never push for it, nor would he understand her silent consent. If they didn't have a child, would Cole have chosen divorce? She didn't know, but if it were her, she didn't think she would. She couldn't explain exactly why, but she just wouldn't. Cora liked to strive for perfection. Since she had decided to maintain this marriage, she would see that perfection through to the end. A happy marriage required love and sex, which is why she understood why her 5 years later self would buy those little toys. They would take the physical side of their marriage slowly, treating this like a script for a marriage of convenience story where love grows over time. While Cora wasn't a nun, she had previously lacked interest in men and held no great expectations or desires for a sex life. Yet, when she realized her future would be spent with Cole, a subtle change began to stir within her. Nearly 28 years of an emotional void. Cora had skipped dating and gone straight to marriage and motherhood. She might have treated marriage like an important contract at work, evaluating the potential profits, the financial returns, and the long-term benefits. Cora began to re-examine her perception of Cole. Unconsciously, a small sense of anticipation began to grow. The marketplace was a battlefield, and a businesswoman like Cora enjoyed a challenge, thriving on adversity. Cole shifted. A good mattress didn't creak or move much, but in the extreme quiet, the slightest sound was magnified. He didn't know if it was because this body had slept too much the night before, but he wasn't the least bit tired now. His mind was unusually clear. He lay with his eyes open, staring at the wall, listening to the sound of Cora's breathing behind him. Maybe it was because she had just showered, but her scent seemed stronger, even seeping into the duvet. "Can't sleep?" Cora suddenly asked. Cole's back went rigid. He was stunned for a moment before replying, "A little. Maybe it's from the long car ride. When I close my eyes, I feel like everything is still moving." He let out a dry laugh, trying to ease the tension in the air. There was a rustle behind him. The duvet felt like it was being pulled, letting in a draft. He knew without looking that Cora was turning over. He just didn't know if she was facing away from him or toward him. Cora clutched the duvet, her voice directed at the back of his head. "I can't sleep either. Want to talk for a while?" "About what?" "Who do you think fell for the other first 5 years ago? You or me?" Cole didn't know how to answer, so he just said, "I don't know." Cora asked again, "Since we got married, does that mean you like me?" It wasn't just settling, was it? As she asked, she felt an inexplicable nervousness. Cole didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I definitely liked you." He wouldn't have married Cora and had a child with her if he didn't. He wouldn't have packed all those little toys in a suitcase. He wouldn't have saved her contact as Cora my love. And he certainly wouldn't have left those intimate marks on her neck. Speaking of text messages, Cora had probably gone through their entire chat history. Some of their conversations were so steamy, they wouldn't have passed the censors on a fiction platform. Cole started curling his toes again. So what was it about me that you liked? Cole mulled over the question, thinking hard about how to answer. Putting himself in his past self's shoes, what would have made him fall for Cora? Falling for you would be a pretty easy thing to do, I think. You're beautiful, brilliant at your job. You have charisma. As a boss, you're considerate of your employees. You never pay late. You don't make people work overtime. You provide great benefits. You value your staff. You understand them. You think big. An employee who can't praise their boss isn't a good employee. But while the words were nice, they were clearly off topic. This was an employee's admiration for a boss, not a man's love for a woman. Cora frowned, dissatisfied with his answer. Just as she was about to speak, she heard Cole's tone shift. But if you're asking me why I fell for you, I think it's because you gave me a feeling at a special time that no one else could. I don't know what it is about you that's so great, but I just know that no one else can take your place. Thump, thump, thump. It was as if a series of bright fireworks had just exploded by her ears. Behind Cole, where he couldn't see, Cora's eyes flew open, her pupils shining. She ducked her head, burying half her face in the duvet. Would Cora be satisfied with that answer? Cole waited for a while, but got no reply. He anxiously tried to guess what she was thinking. Was what he said too cheesy? Or did it not hit the mark? Why wasn't she saying anything? Had she fallen asleep? Just make a sound. If you don't say anything, how am I supposed to sleep? I must have liked you too. Cora's voice came softly from behind him after what felt like a long time. The room was exceptionally quiet. Her breath seemed to be aimed right at the back of his neck. What did you like about me? The moment he asked, Cole regretted it. Honest, kind, extremely competent. Any task I gave you was always completed perfectly. You have perseverance and determination. Cole fell silent. It was what he'd expected, no surprises there, but he still said, thank you. Cora turned to more serious matters. I've had a private investigator looking into things. Some of the information has been sealed, so it might take some time. What information was sealed? The wedding 5 years ago. Anything that needed to be sealed was probably a scandal. When Cole's mind started to wander, it would occasionally veer off track, and some X-rated images suddenly flashed through his head. Cole cleared his throat. It's getting late. We should get some sleep. We have to get up early to take Leo to school and then go see my grandmother. Okay. Good night, Cora said. Good night. Cole forced his eyes shut. He thought it would be hard to fall asleep tonight, but surprisingly, he drifted off not long after closing his eyes. Listening to his steady breathing, Cora guessed he was asleep. She tried to get comfortable, but found she couldn't sleep at all. When Cora slept, she was used to holding something. She usually had a body pillow on her bed, but she couldn't find it anywhere today. Without it, she could only hug a section of the duvet. Worried that Cole wouldn't have enough cover, she scooted a little closer to him. The temperature under the covers began to rise, and Cole's warmth enveloped her like a dense net. Cole had a dream. The setting was specific, Cora's bedroom. It was raining outside, the light in the room was dim. He didn't know what led up to it. The dream was just a series of blurry fragments. The sofa, the bed, the desk, the bathtub, the bathroom counter. He and Cora were tangled together in all these places without a care in the world, doing all sorts of absurd and intimate things. He watched her eyes grow hazy, saw the look of exquisite tension on her face, heard the soft moans escape her slightly parted red lips. A wet sheen covered her almond-shaped eyes, making her look both innocent and seductive. She leaned over his shoulder and whispered in his ear, "Honey, be gentle." Cole jerked awake, his eyes flying open. The heroine of his dream was lying in his arms, her arm draped across his stomach. His body had reacted to the dream. At 30 years old, he was like a schoolboy, saluting the flag first thing in the morning. Cole silently recited a few calming mantras and carefully took hold of Cora's wrist, preparing to sneak out of bed. But just then, Cora woke up. Just like the morning before, they were staring at each other, wide-eyed. This time, however, Cora didn't kick him out of bed. Under the covers, their two bodies were tangled in an extremely compromising position. Cole was a still sleeper. The problem was Cora. Who would have thought that someone who seemed so composed during the day could be so restless at night, clinging to him like a koala? Cole was the first to break the morning silence. Good morning. His voice was a little hoarse from sleep. Cora stared blankly for a few seconds, then scooted backward, pulling her legs away first, then her arm, not stopping until she was at the very edge of the bed. Her heart was hammering in her chest, and in her panic, her mind went briefly blank. She remembered being a good distance away from Cole last night. How did she end up on top of him this morning? She wanted to explain, but she opened her mouth and didn't know where to start. She could only stare at him woodenly. Cole wasn't having a great time either, because his body's reaction hadn't fully subsided. He sat up, turning his back to Cora. I'm gonna go wash up. You can sleep in a little longer. At this point, who could possibly go back to sleep? As Cole got out of bed, he took advantage of Cora's dazed state and hurried into the bathroom. Facing the mirror, looking at the wide vanity, his mind was uncontrollably flooded with images from his dream. It was right here on this spot. He had lifted Cora onto the counter, his fingers tangled in her hair. She was like a pine tree on a cliff's edge, battered by wind and snow, swaying precariously. The realness of the touch in his dream made him unable to distinguish if it was a memory or a fantasy. He couldn't think about it anymore, and he'd be late. Cole found a facial cleanser on the shelf, turned on the cold water, and started washing his face. The slick foam on his skin made him think of the scene in the bathtub. The sound of running water trickled from the bathroom. From the bed, you could see the vanity on the opposite side. Why did so many people enjoy a thrill? Because the accelerated heartbeat makes an ordinary life spark with excitement. All her life, Cora's existence had been like a pre-programmed machine. Methodical, predictable, and dull. She had never imagined her life would be disrupted in this way. Right now, there was a man in her room. He was wearing the same matching pajamas as her, sleeping in her bed, using her bathroom, washing his face at her vanity, using her cleanser. It was as if a silent valley had an echo for the first time. Her programming code had been disrupted, but she wasn't annoyed at all. In fact, she was looking forward to seeing what results this strange new code would bring. Cora gazed at the busy figure in the bathroom, watching him wash his face and brush his teeth. Then she saw him go into the toilet stall and pull down his pants. Cora's pupils dilated. She blinked, looking again to be sure. Wait, that door is transparent? How did she not notice last night? So when Cole came in while she was showering, did he see everything? The realization dawned on her, and her face grew progressively hotter. She couldn't see out from the inside, so why could someone see in from the outside? Cora silently pulled the covers over her head. After using the toilet, Cole stood in front of the mirror, rubbing the stubble on his chin. There had to be a men's razor here somewhere, right? Cole searched around and, under the bathroom cabinet, found a pink razor. It was very different from the electric shaver he used. This one had a built-in soap bar. It was the first time he'd seen one like it. Cole wet the soap bar to lather it. The blade was sharp, but it didn't work as well as a shaver. This will have to do. Cole rubbed his chin, then turned to call Cora. I'm done in here. You can get up now. Cora opened the covers to see Cole holding the pink razor. She froze. What are you doing with that body razor? Shaving my beard. You're using that to shave your beard? If you listen closely, you could hear a slight tremor in her voice. Cole looked at the razor in his hand and didn't see anything wrong with it. He had searched the entire bathroom cabinet, and this was the only razor he found. If it wasn't for shaving his beard, what was it for? He couldn't possibly be for shaving his head, right? To keep Cole from realizing anything, Cora turned her head to avoid his gaze. Her face was getting hotter and hotter. She knew without looking in a mirror that she was blushing furiously. Cole said, I couldn't find an electric shaver, only this. Is it not okay to use? It's fine, you can use it. What could she say? Cole didn't know anything. She couldn't just come out and tell him it was what she used to shave. Cole was completely bewildered. His gut told him he had done something he shouldn't have. He rinsed the razor and put it back where he found it, then went into the walk-in closet and changed into a set of casual clothes. I'm heading out, he said as he emerged. Cora was at the mirror washing her face, her hair loosely tied up, revealing her pale, slender neck. Without turning, she just said, hum. She heard the door open and close. Once Cole was gone, the bedroom suddenly felt much larger, almost empty. Cora opened the storage cabinet and looked at the razor, still damp with water. Her face burned, a heat that even cold water couldn't extinguish. When they got back, she absolutely had to remind Cole to buy a shaver. As for this one, it was probably best to just throw it away. After washing her face, Cora sat at her vanity, applied some light makeup, and spritzed on some perfume. Her once personal room was now filled with the unignorable presence of masculine items. A man's shaving cream on the vanity, suits and shirts hanging next to her clothes in the closet, men's belts and cufflinks in the jewelry cabinet, a few men's ties looking out of place where her lingerie was supposed to be. The changes were visible to the naked eye, a clear and direct testament to the 5 years she and Cole had spent together. The moment Cole stepped out of the room, he ran into Eleanor coming upstairs. Mom, are you going to wake Leo? Yes. Go on then. I'll have Maria get the breakfast ready. We're having crab soup, dumplings this morning. In his room, Leo was still asleep, a small figure lying on his side, hugging a teddy bear. Just like Cora, He liked to wrap his arms and legs around it. Cole pushed the door open and stood by his bed. "Good morning. Time to get up, son." Leo's eyes fluttered open. Seeing it was his dad, he rubbed his eyes and grumbled. Who even invented good morning? Mornings are not good at all. He said it, but he still rolled over and got out of bed. His son's words made Cole chuckle. He ruffled his messy hair. "Which outfit today?" Leo padded over to the closet and began a serious selection process, finally choosing a black tracksuit. Cole had checked the weather earlier. It wasn't going to be warm, and there was a chance of rain in the afternoon, so he grabbed a jacket for him. "Dad, is Mom up?" "She's up. Mom and Dad are both taking you to school today. Happy?" The little guy nodded vigorously. Happy, happy. Cole took Leo's hand. As they passed the master bedroom, he suddenly remembered the transparent shower. But was it too late to realize it now? Had she seen him when he was using the toilet? He had no idea who came up with that bathroom design. It was so easy to overlook that it was transparent. What was even more ridiculous was that when the door got wet, it became reflective on the inside, showing a person's silhouette. Even he had to admit, it certainly added a certain spice to life. After breakfast, Cole went upstairs and brought down the suitcase he had already packed. Leo was the first to see it, assuming his dad was leaving for another business trip. "Dad, you just got back from work yesterday. Are you leaving again today? How long will you be gone this time? Is Mom going with you? I want to go to work too. When I grow up, I'm going to work overtime every day and be your assistant, so I can go on trips with you." His little mouth chattered on and on. Even if no one responded, he could talk to himself all day. Listening to Leo's overtime dream, Cole sighed. Youth was a wonderful thing, mistaking overtime for a treasure. It was no different from his own childhood wish to eat instant noodles every day when he grew up. Eleanor came out of the kitchen just in time to hear. "Are you two going on a trip today?" "Yes," Cole replied. "Cora and I decided to go back to my hometown to see my grandmother." "You should go back these next couple of days," Eleanor said, then asked, "When will you be back?" "Not sure yet. Be careful on the road," Eleanor instructed. "We'll be here at home, so don't you worry. We'll be counting on you then, Mom." Eleanor shook her head and said no more. If Cole had been paying close attention at that moment, he might have noticed she was being overly quiet. Leo raised his little hand. "Dad, I want to go too." Cole pushed his hand down. "No, you have school. When you're on break, I can take you back to visit." "Okay then. Remember to say hi to Uncle Daisy for me. Buy him some yummy treats and tell him I miss him." Uncle Daisy? Could that be his grandmother's dog, Daisy? In terms of age, Leo really should call Daisy Uncle. "Okay, I'll definitely buy the treats, and I'll definitely pass on the message." Only then was Leo satisfied. The family of three got in the car. Leo was a ball of energy, gossiping with Cora the entire way, sometimes leaning in to whisper secrets in her ear. Compared to yesterday, Cora was already able to interact with Leo effortlessly, handling his questions with ease. Kids this age are in the throes of curiosity, their minds filled with a million questions. Why we have to go to school? How do cars move? How did Mom and Dad make a baby? It was peak school run time. Sunflower Grove Preschool was swarming with parents and children. The driver expertly pulled the car over to the side of the road. When Cole and Cora got out, countless eyes turned toward them. Many people here recognized them. Cole secretly observed, matching the faces in the crowd to the photos in his file. The one with glasses was the principal. The one with the high ponytail was Leo's teacher, Ms. Albright. There were also their next-door neighbors and a few business owners who worked with the Vance Corporation. Leo was also scanning the crowd for his friends, his eyes quickly landing on one person. Dylan. Following the sound, Cole saw a little boy in a red shirt. "Leo, your mom and dad brought you to school today." "Yep." Leo ran a few steps, then turned and ran back. Cole squatted down to catch him, thinking he'd forgotten something. "What's wrong? Why'd you come back?" Before he could finish, Leo planted a kiss on his cheek. After kissing his dad, he didn't forget his mom. Once he'd kissed them both, he let go. "Dad, Mom, I'm going to school now. I'll be good while you're gone. I'll eat well, so don't worry about me. I wish you a safe trip." A child's manners are ingrained. It was clear he was being raised well. A few parents in the crowd looked on with envy. Cole wiped the saliva from his cheek and stood up. Leo was very polite, saying good morning to everyone he passed. Watching his son walk into the school, Cole felt an unexplainable sense of melancholy. He missed his grandmother. Every time he left home, his grandmother would stand at the edge of the village to see him off. She would still be standing there long after the car was out of sight. From sending him off to school, to later sending him off on the bus. From a day's wait to a week's anticipation. From one end of the school to the other end of a phone line. Cora tugged on his sleeve. "Let's go. We'll miss our flight if we're late." It was only at the airport that Cole realized Cora had bought first-class tickets. He really had made it in life, flying first class. Having lived with his grandmother, Cole had picked up some of her habits, like being frugal. Even after he became financially independent and saved a good amount of money, he never bought a first-class ticket. To him, transportation just needed to be fast and convenient. Where you sat didn't matter. First class was spacious, the seats were comfortable, and there were even blankets on the floor. "Do you want the window or the aisle?" Cole asked. "Window." After they sat down, Cora asked, "What were you thinking about when you were dropping Leo off? You seem a little down." "It was nothing. I was just thinking about my grandmother." Cora paused. "Did you call her today?" "No," Cole explained. "If I call her in the morning, she'll just wait around all day. Then she'll start killing chickens and ducks, busying herself until I get there." The old woman always worried her grandson wasn't eating well out in the world. The rare times he came back, she would seize the opportunity to prepare, cooking a whole table full of food to wait for his return. Cole was afraid she would wear herself out and had told her many times. The old woman would nod and agree at the time, only to do the same thing again next time, in one ear and out the other, completely set in her ways. So every time he went home, he never told her in advance. When he arrived, anything that needed to be done, he would do. Anything that needed to be bought, he would buy. "Grandma," Cole heard the worry in Cora's voice. He smiled. "Don't worry. I'm sure Grandma's fine." Yesterday, when the call wouldn't go through, he'd been worried all day too. But today, when he mentioned going back to see her, no one else in the family had reacted. Another thing was, he figured, if Daisy was there, then his grandmother must be there too. Why? Because if his grandmother were gone, he would have definitely taken Daisy with him. The fact that he hadn't meant the dog was at home, keeping her company. "My grandma has always been healthy, rarely gets sick. She's turning 80 this year, you know? It feels like just yesterday I called her, and she was saying how she wanted to throw a big party for her 80th, invite all the relatives and folk from the village, have dozens of tables. I have plenty of money now. I could book a hotel for her. After 80, we'll do 90, and after 90 comes 100. The whole village will come for her 100th. We have a lot of long-lived people in our village, but only 3 have made it past 100. I hope my grandma is the 4th. I wonder how the village has changed in these 5 years. I hope all the people I know are still around." The overhead light cast a halo around him, the warm glow softening his features, making him look like an old, yellowed photograph steeped in memory. Cora listened quietly as Cole spoke. He talked about the tiled roof house he lived in, how it would leak whenever it rained. He talked about his big yellow dog, Daisy, who could catch mice. He talked about the apple tree by his door and the swing he and his grandmother built together. "When I was a kid, I used to go digging for loaches in the rice paddies, catching eels. Sometimes I'd catch a snake. The moon used to be so big and round and bright. You didn't even need a flashlight to see. And there were fireflies in the grass. My grandma raised sheep. I'd read a book while I was herding them, and by the time I looked up, the sheep would be gone." "Did you find them?" Cora asked. A smile touched Cole's lips. "I did. They'd run off to the main road to eat the grass there. Life in the countryside was hard. In his memory, his grandmother's farm work was never-ending. She'd wake up before dawn to feed the pigs. They had 5, and she raised every one of them to be plump and healthy. Besides pigs, they also raised chickens, ducks, geese, sheep, and rabbits. Anything that passed through his grandmother's hands was bound to thrive, and that, of course, included him. This time of year, the apples on our tree should be ripe. When we get home, we'll go pick them. I'll climb the tree, and you can catch them in a basket below." "You still have to climb it?" "Yeah. We planted that tree when I was in elementary school. It was already big 5 years ago. It must be even bigger now, an old tree." Cole spoke, using his hands to describe the scene. He was so vivid that Cora's gaze shifted from his hands to his face, imagining a young Cole running through the fields, growing up in the blink of an eye. Cora had never met his grandmother. Her impression of her was limited to a few old, faded photographs. Cora had lived with her own grandparents for a time as a child. Her grandfather had been a teacher, stern and rigid, strict with his students, and even stricter with his own family. In his presence, Cora was always on her best behavior. Her childhood was a stack of books, with no toys and no friends. So, hearing Cole talk about his childhood, she felt a sense of longing. She wanted to climb that mountain, to look for fireflies, to herd sheep. "Leo is a lot like you," Cora said. "His personality is just like yours. Lively, optimistic, resilient, devoted. I've never seen such a wonderful child." "You have," Cole said, turning his head to look at her seriously. "Who?" "Yourself." Cole was only a hand's breadth away from her, his eyes holding a smile as he looked at her. Cora met his gaze for 2 seconds. The sparks in his eyes threatened to set her ablaze. She lowered her eyes. Did you sleep well last night? Talking about last night inevitably brought his erotic dream to mind. Cole cleared his throat. Very well. Slept right through till morning. Cora said, I'm not a still sleeper. When I sleep alone, I like to hold on to something. I didn't expect to be holding on to you last night. The explanation was worse than no explanation at all. By the end, even she didn't know what she was saying, a jumble of emotions flooding her brain. Whether it was in the car yesterday or in bed last night, it was clear her body relied on Cole more than she imagined. Cora had once come across a saying online, my body recognized you before my heart did. Even without memory, I still love you. Cora didn't know how much her liking for Cole amounted to, but she didn't dislike his embrace. She secretly sized up the man before her. Long legs, long arms, long everywhere. Cora quickly stopped her train of thought. When we land, remember to buy a shaver. Right, I'll remember. He'd been thinking about it, and also about the razor he'd used that morning and what it was for. Cole glanced at Cora's smooth, fair arms, then at the hair on his own. Could it be that Cora used it to shave her body? Since Cora had brought up the razor, he might as well mention the bathroom door. Did you know the shower door in the bedroom is transparent? Cora didn't answer, instead tossing the question back at him. When did you find out? Cole lied. This morning, when I was getting the suitcase. Cora lied right back. I only found out later when I was washing up. Should we replace it? Cole asked. If they didn't, it would affect their daily life and sooner or later cause a problem. Let's talk about it when we get back. If we suddenly change the door, I'm worried Mom and Dad will get the wrong idea. The journey wasn't long, just an hour. After getting off the plane, Cole bought an electric shaver at a nearby convenience store. They still had nearly an hour's drive ahead of them. Cole was eager to get there, but considering Cora was with him, he decided they should grab some lunch nearby before heading out. Partway through their meal, Cole got a call. The caller ID said flower shop owner. Cole answered, hello. Mr. Miller, the delivery girl said your wife isn't at the office today. Should we still deliver the flowers? His phone was on speaker, so Cora, sitting next to him, could hear everything clearly. Cole paused, surprised. The 31-year-old Cole was quite the romantic, apparently, sending Cora flowers every day. Since it's already on its way, just leave it at the front desk. Okay, the call ended. Cora was a little curious about what kind of flowers Cole would send her. What kind are they? I think the owner sent me pictures. Let me see. Cole opened his chat history with the flower shop owner. A bouquet almost every single day for 3 years straight. Cora had never lacked for admirers. People were always sending her flowers or asking her out to dinner under various pretexts. As her assistant, Cole had often helped her deal with these annoyances. She never expected that after they got married, he would adopt the same tactics. Cole scrolled up. None of the pictures were repeats, and each bouquet had a conspicuous note attached. My love, I love you. From Cole. A blatant declaration of ownership, as if he was afraid people wouldn't know who sent them. Affection, courtship, possessiveness, dominance, childishness. This was the 31-year-old's love for Cora. Cora looked at the pictures of the flowers. If she wasn't mistaken, the filler in the bouquet was mistletoe. Mistletoe represented the intersection of love and fate. In Christmas tradition, two people standing under the mistletoe must kiss, signifying their intertwined destinies, a love that cannot be avoided. It had rained the night before, and the entire city felt like it had been steeped in a jar of water. The air was cold and damp. The temperature had dropped sharply, a chill that hit you the moment you stepped off the plane. It was fine at first, but after sitting for a while, his right leg began to ache. Cole reached down to rub it. What's wrong with your leg? Cole hadn't planned on hiding it. He just hadn't found the right moment. Now that Cora asked, he explained, my leg was injured at some point in the last 5 years. I don't know how it happened. Let me see. Cora's tone left no room for argument. Cole rolled up his pant leg. When she saw the scar, her pupils contracted slightly. The moment Cole said it hurt in the rain, she had already guessed it was serious. Only an injury that went deep down to the bone would cause symptoms like that. Cora felt a heavy weight in her chest, as if something was piled there, making it hard to breathe. She reached out and touched it gently. That must have hurt a lot. A faint tickle ran up his leg, and the muscle in his calf tensed instinctively. Cole pulled his leg back slightly. It's okay. I can walk, run, jump. It just gets a little uncomfortable in cold weather. The pain was in the past. For him, the time traveler, it didn't feel entirely real. Cora's gaze remained fixed on the scar until Cole pulled his pant leg down. Judging by the look of it, the injury was several years old. What kind of accident leaves a scar that deep? Could it also be related to the wedding 5 years ago? The thought entered her head, and so she asked, "Didn't you say you time-traveled because of car accident? Could the injury on your leg have been from that?" "I was knocked unconscious in the crash. It's possible there was a chain reaction accident that caused me to be injured a second time," Cole said. "What are you thinking?" After a moment of contemplation, Cole shared his thought with Cora. After hearing it, she too fell into speculation. It wasn't impossible. After all, Jenna's own legs had been injured, and she had almost been unable to walk again. A situation like that would inevitably bring back those painful memories for her. Just then a phone rang. This time it was Cora's. She answered. "Mom." Hearing it was his mother-in-law, Cole immediately sat up straight. "Have you two arrived yet?" Eleanor asked. "Not yet. We're having lunch near the airport. It's a bit cold today. Is Cole's leg okay?" Cora looked at Cole. "He says it's fine, he can walk." "Cora, you need to take good care of Cole." Eleanor's voice was laced with worry. "Did you two have a fight yesterday?" "No." "Really?" Eleanor didn't sound convinced. "Really, no. You're overthinking it," Cora said, her tone tinged with helplessness. "It's just, the atmosphere between you and Cole felt a little strange. Not like you've been fighting, more like you didn't know each other. You seemed so distant. Was it that obvious?" Cora thought she and Cole had put on a good act, but she never imagined everyone had seen right through it. Cora fell silent for a moment, not knowing what to say. Fortunately, Eleanor didn't press the issue. "Be strong for him, Cora. I know visiting her grave is always hard." Cora's face went pale. A buzzing sound filled her ears, making it hard to hear the voice on the phone. What was Eleanor saying? Whose grave? Cora had 1,000 questions she wanted to ask, but in the end, she couldn't get a single word out. The change in Cora's expression was so drastic that Cole couldn't help but notice. "What are you talking about? Why do you look so?" Cora's hand trembled, and she reflexively hung up the phone. "It's nothing." Cora felt dazed, wondering if she had been so tense that she'd misheard. Maybe Eleanor wasn't talking about his grandmother, but Cole's mother. But if his grandmother really had passed away, what would Cole do? He missed her so much. "She was just mentioning your leg. Told me to take good care of you. It's a minor thing. My grandma knows a lot about herbal remedies. I broke my arm once as a kid, and after the doctor set the bone, she went all over finding herbs for me. Some to eat, some to apply as a poultice. Look, my arm is perfectly fine now. When we get back, I'll have her find some more herbs for me." Cole held out his arm for Cora to see. The smile on his face was the same as it had been on the plane, full of anticipation. It made it impossible for her to even voice a hypothetical question. Cole hailed a cab. Cora was quiet the whole way, her brow furrowed tightly, as if wrestling with an unsolvable problem. She had been perfectly fine just a moment ago. How did one phone call change everything? What on earth had Eleanor said to her? Unfortunately, it had been noisy around them, and he hadn't heard a thing. It was clear Cora didn't want to talk about it, so he couldn't bring himself to ask. For the rest of the drive, besides answering a few necessary questions from the driver, Cole barely spoke. He opened the window and watched the passing scenery. It grew more and more familiar. The cool wind on his face felt like the same wind from his childhood. 5 years ago, this stretch of road had been a wreck. Now, not only was it repaired, but it had been widened. They'd installed streetlights and signs. Old houses had been torn down and replaced with new buildings. Many of the fields had been leased out and converted into orchards. There was a section of the road the car couldn't enter. The driver pulled over to the side. Cole got out, grabbing his suitcase. He muttered to himself, "Every time I came home, my Daisy would come to meet me. I wonder if she'll come today." The words were barely out of his mouth when he heard 2 barks. In the distance, a large yellow dog was wagging its tail, trotting unsteadily toward them. "I think that's her. That's my Daisy." Seeing his dog, Cole's face lit up with surprise, his eyes shining. He waved at her. "Daisy, I'm home." Counting the years, including the last 5, Daisy was already 14, the equivalent of 80 in human years. Cole ran over and knelt, stroking Daisy's head. "Daisy, I'm home. Have you been okay these past 5 years?" 5 years had matured even the dog. She had gone from a middle-aged dog to a senior, no longer rolling around and begging for attention like she used to. But one thing hadn't changed. She would still be wagging her tail at the crossroads to welcome him home. A dog's love is fervent and true. She couldn't speak, only licked Cole's hand gently with her tongue. He had found Daisy on the side of the road his senior year of high school. She was just a scrawny little thing back then, wobbly on her feet. Everyone who saw her said she wouldn't make it, but his grandmother didn't believe them. With a spoonful of herbal medicine and a sip of goat's milk, she slowly nursed Daisy back to health. Daisy was shedding. Cole's hand came away covered in fur. He patted his hands clean, then remembered Cora behind him. "This is my Daisy." Don't worry, she doesn't bite. Cora knelt down. Before she could say a word, Daisy came over, wagging her tail. It was clear he had brought Cora here many times over the past 5 years. Daisy treated her just like she treated Cole, squinting her eyes and lowering her head, gently licking Cora's hand. Good girl, Daisy. You're so cute, so cute, so cute. The dog seemed to understand Cora's praise, flopping onto the ground and wagging her tail even more furiously. Who's that? Who's over there? A voice called from a distance. Cole looked over, recognized the person, and called back, Mrs. Henderson, it's me, Cole. Well, it's Cole. What brings you back? I came back to see my grandmother. Cole shouted back. Weren't you just here for Memorial Day to put flowers on her grave? It's only been a few. Grave? Cora shot a nervous glance at Cole. She watched his expression shift from joy to confusion in the span of a single second. The way the light in his eyes extinguished was like the lonely emptiness after a firework explodes, a change that made his panic palpable. Mrs. Henderson was still talking down below, something about how devoted Cole was, coming back just last month for Memorial Day to put flowers on his grandmother's grave, and now here he was again, not even 20 days later. Cole dropped his suitcase and ran like a madman toward the house. He ran faster and faster, the cold wind whistling past his ears, sharp enough to pierce his eardrums. Finally, he reached his front door. He stood there, stunned, staring at the moss-covered stone steps, the mildewed walls, the cobwebs hanging from the eaves. The apple tree by the door hadn't borne any fruit this year. It was sick. It was dead. If Grandma were here, it would never have died. How could it be dead? Cole's eyes were terrifyingly empty. Cora was chasing after him, shouting something, but he heard nothing. It was as if his eyes couldn't hold anything. In his world, everything was already dead. Cole's lips moved, his brain frozen. Despair silently enveloped him, a dark cloud that wouldn't dissipate. Staring at the closed front door, he walked over and knocked. It was just after 1 o'clock. At this time, his grandmother should be taking her afternoon nap. She always had that habit. After lunch and washing the dishes, she'd lie down with a fan. When she wasn't home, she'd leave the spare key on the windowsill. Cole found the key and, with trembling hands, unlocked the door. And then he saw the photograph hanging on the wall. An explosion went off in Cole's head. In an instant, the world seemed to hit pause, leaving only a blank, silent wreckage in his consciousness. It was his grandmother at 75, just as he remembered her, forever smiling gently. Cole was like a lost soul, pacing endlessly around the room. He'd used his first year's salary to have this house built. It wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. Big enough to house all sorts of farm animals, small enough for just him and his grandmother. With his grandmother gone, the house was suddenly empty. An unrelenting pain pulsed through his nerves. He was in so much agony he began to spasm, nearly collapsing. He braced himself against the wall and cried out, Grandma, Grandma, where are you? I'm back. It's your grandson. I'm back. He just talked to her yesterday morning on the phone. How could she suddenly be gone? Daisy was here. Why wasn't she? Everyone else was fine. Why did it have to be his grandmother who left? Cole searched the house, frantic. In the closet, he found the red envelopes his grandmother had prepared for his wedding, along with a bag of expired wedding candy. Her clothes were still there, but they smelled faintly of mildew from being stored for too long. The small alarm clock on the nightstand was broken, its hands frozen at 12. That clock had been with him his entire childhood, from elementary school through high school. His grandmother was a sentimental person. She hadn't thrown it away even when it broke. The clock's casing had lost its original color, the metal parts flecked with rust. As a child, Cole had no concept of time, naively thinking that an alarm clock could control it. He would deliberately set the clock forward, try to make his favorite cartoon come on sooner, try to make tomorrow arrive faster, trying to grow up quickly. And now, all he wanted was to turn it back, to make time go slower and slower. He turned the minute hand on the clock face, twisting it with a crazed intensity until the clock, unable to take the strain, fell apart in his hands, its pieces scattering across the floor. He dropped to his knees in a panic, trying to piece the clock back together while praying this was all a nightmare, that when he woke up, he'd be back 5 years ago, back when his grandmother was still here. In the already dim light, a shadow fell over him. Cole didn't notice, not until he felt a soft wetness on the back of his hand. It was Daisy, nudging his hand with her nose, trying to stop him from hurting himself. His hand was bleeding, but Cole seemed to feel no pain. He clenched the clock parts in his fist, his voice distorted. My grandma's gone. I just saw her 2 days ago. We talked on the phone for half an hour yesterday morning. Not yesterday. 5 years ago. When a person gets older, their body deteriorates rapidly. His grandmother was 75, not 15. 5 years, over 1,800 days. You never know if tomorrow or tragedy will come first. Cole had been clinging to a sliver of hope, refusing to face it. He was afraid of a result he couldn't bear, so he ignored it again and again, making up excuses to comfort himself, to deceive himself. Cole's eyes were red. It wasn't cold, but he couldn't stop shivering. In the depths of his breakdown, even crying was a luxury. Cora didn't say anything. She just knelt and hugged him, holding him tightly, trying to pull him back from the brink. This was the life Cole had missed for 5 years. His only family was gone, and he didn't even know how she disappeared, if she was sick or if there was an accident. Remembering Cole on the plane, talking about his grandmother, Cora's heart suddenly felt like it was being squeezed. She had negotiated billion-dollar deals, handled crises big and small, but faced with Cole now, she didn't know how to react, what to do. Words of comfort felt too pale. Expressions of sorrow felt like pity. Cora's chest felt tight, and a mist began to form in her eyes. Daisy, as if sensing their grief, lay down quietly in front of Cole, watching him without moving, her ears drooping. Cole's lifelong goal had been to give his grandmother a good life. With her gone, he was like a ship without a rudder, looking around aimlessly, not knowing what to do. Cora cupped his face. Let's go find her. Cora felt as if Cole was about to shatter, just like the broken clock in his hands. She gripped his hand tightly, pulling him up from the floor. The warmth from her hand seeped into him, a steadying current. Cole followed her steps, dazed. They left the dim room and stood in the yard outside. No swing, no apples. Nothing but Daisy. Daisy, do you know where Grandma is? It was Cora who asked. She didn't expect a dog to understand, but what if? Daisy looked up at her for a moment, as if deciphering her words. After a long pause, she slowly turned and started walking toward the mountain. Every few steps, she would look back at them, as if signaling them to follow. Cole was like a marionette, letting Cora lead him up the mountain. The sky was misty. It wasn't raining, yet Cole's vision was blurry. When the wind blew, his face felt as if it were freezing over. How could there be ice in May? Cole reached up to wipe his face. It was tears streaming from his eyes. He hadn't cried in a long time. The last time he remembered crying this hard was when he broke his arm at age 7. He remembered it was a stormy day. His grandmother had carried him on her back for miles. There were few cars in the countryside. As times changed, most people had gone to the city to work, leaving behind a community of the elderly. There were no paved roads back then, just treacherous mountain paths that became slippery in the rain. His grandmother had gritted her teeth, her small arms holding him tightly. The rain that day was heavy, and the drops that ran into his mouth were salty and bitter, just like now. After they got back from the clinic, the old woman didn't even catch her breath before she grabbed a hoe and went to fix the road. I can walk on a road like this, she had said, but my grandson can't. The biggest change in these years was the mountain roads. They had gone from muddy tracks to wide, paved paths. His grandmother definitely wouldn't have slipped walking on a road like this. Daisy led the way, bringing them to a spot on the mountain. The elderly in the village were buried on the mountain when they died. The graves were piled high, with grass growing on top and a headstone in front. Daisy familiarly trotted to a grave and lay down. Cole stopped in his tracks, his gaze falling on the tombstone. Carved into it were the simple words, Helen Miller, beloved grandmother. It wasn't that the calls weren't getting through. It was that his grandmother couldn't answer them. Cole stood before the grave for a long time, so long that he started to hallucinate, feeling as if his grandmother were still standing there in front of him. The old woman smiled at him. My grandson has grown so tall, taller than me. Death is a recurring tide of grief, a thorn in the heart, a fracture in the bone that never quite heals, aching with the slightest touch. His grandmother had been with him as he grew up, and he had been with her as she grew old. They passed 60, looking towards 70. They survived 70, hoping for 80. The old woman always said that living to 75 was enough, that seeing her grandson get married would make her life complete. But his life wasn't complete. He wanted to see his grandmother live to be 100. Cole's legs gave way, and he knelt on the ground. He opened his mouth and softly called out, Grandma. No one answered. After calling her name, Cole reached out and gently traced the letters on the tombstone. The people in the village always said his grandmother had a hard life. She lost her mother as a child, her husband as a young woman, and her daughter in middle age. At 75, she had only one grandson. That was why only Cole's name was listed as family on her grave. At the bottom, one line for her birth, one for her passing. A few numbers to sum up a person's short life. Cole stared at the dates. May 21st, XXXX. Jenna, a romantic, had set their wedding for May 20th. His grandmother had died the day after the wedding. Today, 5 years ago. Why that day? The day of his joy had become the day of his grandmother's death. H. Cole stared at the date, gasping for air. Each icy breath felt like it was freezing his organs. In a blur, he saw a sharp rock on the ground. He picked it up and, without a moment's hesitation, moved to cut the artery in his neck. Just as the rock was about to touch his skin, a hand stopped him. Cole looked up at Cora, his lips trembling numbly. "Let go." He struggled, but he couldn't break free. He never imagined a woman could be so strong. Cora's slender fingers were white from the force of her grip. Cora held on for dear life. "Cole, what are you doing? Tell me, what are you trying to do?" What was he trying to do? He didn't belong here. He just wanted to use this method to go back to his own time. His grandmother was still at home waiting for him to come back and pick apples. Cole didn't speak, just clenched the rock tighter. The faint scent of blood reached his nose. He thought he had succeeded, but when he looked, he saw that Cora had grabbed the stone in his hand. Bright red blood dripped from between her fingers, a winding red line running down her arm. She seemed to feel no pain. One hand wasn't enough, so she used both. The sharp edge cut in her palm. She grimaced, her face pale. From either pain or fear, he couldn't tell. Why was she stopping him? Cora looked into Cole's empty eyes. "Grandma worked so hard to raise you. Are you really going to kill yourself in front of her?" If she knew the grandson she worked so hard to raise killed himself at her grave, how worried and sad would she be? If Grandma were still alive, she would absolutely not want you to do something so foolish. Cole froze for a second, his entire body going rigid, his hands and feet ice cold. "I just want to go back. I shouldn't be here, don't you understand? I just saw her 2 days ago. We wrapped red envelopes together, packed wedding candy. She's my only family. Grandma raised me. If it weren't for her, I would have died a long time ago. I shouldn't be here. I should be back there, saving her." The old woman had never known a day of peace. 75 years was far too short. Cole felt an agonizing pain, a pain that tore him apart from the inside out. He could almost see his own soul struggling inside this body, being shredded into pieces. How can you be sure that killing yourself will let you go back? What if you don't go back? What if you just disappear? Then you'd have died for nothing, wouldn't you? While Cole was stunned, Cora wrenched the rock from his hand and threw it far away. "Have you thought about what would happen to me if you killed yourself here? What about our son? Don't forget, we're married, we have a child. Can you really bear to see Leo grow up without a father?" Then what was he supposed to do? What in God's name was he supposed to do? Cole's heart felt like it was being ripped apart. He was lost, his face a mask of helpless panic, like a child's. Cora hugged him. "We're a family. I'll face this with you. We'll figure out together." Cora used his grandmother to stop him, and she used herself and their child to anchor him. She was telling him that he didn't just have his grandmother. He had her, and he had Leo. She would learn to love him the way his grandmother had. Cole's body was tense in her embrace, his hands clenched into fists. The rigidity gave way to violent tremors, and he opened his mouth in a silent, wrenching sob. Cole felt as if his hope was gone, a piece of him hollowed out that could never be filled. The grief was so profound that even breathing hurt, like a thorn lodged in his throat. Cora gently cupped his face, using her uninjured hand to wipe away his tears. "Cry. It's better to let it out. How do you get through the low points in life? You wait quietly. You sleep well, like a hibernating bear." Right now, Cole was like a blade of grass in a storm, battered by the rain, but Cora believed he would get through this. Seeing Cole gradually calm down, Cora held her injured hand out to him. "Look at my hand. If Grandma were still here, would she be heartbroken to see her granddaughter-in-law get hurt?" Cole looked at Cora's palm. The cut from the rock looked vicious. His heart clenched unexpectedly. She would. He could picture the old woman rushing to get medicine. If she were still here, she would be bandaging Cora's hand while fretting. "How could you be so careless?" "She's not here. Can you take care of me? Help me put some antiseptic on it and wrap it up," Cora said, glancing at the photo on the tombstone. She had never met Cole's grandmother, but she felt as if she had known her for a long, long time. Just as Cole had described, she was a kind old woman. In the photo, she was looking at them gently. Cole took her wrist and stood up. "Come on, I'll take you to get that cleaned up." "Okay." Cora lowered her head, following him quietly. Going down the mountain was easier than going up. Cole had a habit of carrying a first aid kit. He took out some iodine from his suitcase. He was responsible for her injury, so he would take care of it. He washed her hand with clean water, rinsing away the blood before disinfecting it with iodine. The cut was deeper than he'd thought. The skin split open, with fine grains of dirt inside. The moment the iodine spray hit the wound, Cora's hand flinched. "Does it hurt a lot?" Cole asked. Cora looked at Cole as he carefully cleaned the wound with a cotton swab. "It does hurt a lot. See? If it were any deeper, it would leave a scar. But when I think that a wound like this could have been on your neck, my heart hurts even more." In truth, the wound didn't hurt that much. She was deliberately saying it hurt, wanting to make Cole feel a sense of guilt, creating an image of her own vulnerability to evoke his protective instincts, his sympathy. As the saying goes, to make him fall in love with you, you have to make him feel for you, even break his heart. When faced with a problem, feign strength, show emotion, express a need. Sure enough, after she said that, Cole's body tensed. He was at a loss, wanting to apologize but unable to find the words, a look of indecision on his face. The air smelled of iodine. Cora looked at him and asked, "When you were hurt, did Grandma help you treat your wounds like this?" Cole recalled, "When I was a kid, I was peeling an apple and accidentally cut my hand. It was a deep cut, bleeding a lot. We didn't have iodine at home, only grain alcohol. My grandma used that to disinfect it for me." Cora frowned. That must have stung the wound terribly. "Yeah, it didn't hurt that much before she did that." "Did you cry back then?" Cora asked. "I probably did," Cole said. "At that age, tears were hard to control." "When you cried, would your grandma comfort you?" Facing Cora's curious gaze, Cole nodded. "She would." "How would she comfort you?" Cora pressed. "She would blow on the wound," Cole said. "It wouldn't hurt after she blew on it." His grandmother would never scold him. Seeing him hurt, she would only feel his pain, then tell him to be more careful next time. After treating the wound, she would find a piece of candy to soothe him. As Cora listened, a smile unconsciously formed on her lips. "My hand hurts a lot right now. Can you blow on it for me?" Cole froze. "You don't want to? Then never mind. It's not that serious. I can bear it. Just wrap it with some gauze for me." Feigning strength is more endearing than showing weakness. The formula was, express grievance, show understanding, and angle for a benefit. Cora didn't show any disappointment at Cole's silence. She just quietly looked at her palm. Sometimes, silence is more effective than words. Just as Cora was about to pull her hand back, she felt a cool sensation in her palm. Cole leaned in close and blew gently on her palm. The cool air soothed the sting of the wound. Now it wasn't hurting anymore, it was tingling. A tingle that started in her palm and spread all the way to her heart, making her want to scratch it. Cora curled her fingers slightly. Cole blew 5 or 6 times. "Still hurt?" Cora shook her head. "Not anymore. It doesn't hurt when you blow on it." The words sounded almost like a playful complaint. The curve of Cora's smile deepened. She watched Cole take a roll of gauze and carefully wrap her hand. His movements were gentle, as if he were creating a piece of art. A man is handsome when he's focused, especially when the object of his focus is her. His eyes were half-lidded, his eyelashes slightly lowered. From her angle, she could see their length clearly. An unexplainable nervousness fluttered inside Cora. She tried to keep it from showing. Done. Finally, the bandaging was finished. Cole let out a sigh of relief. Cora flexed her right hand. "Thank you. Don't mention it." Looking at her hand, Cole couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. "Don't get the wound wet. If I don't get it wet, how am I supposed to wash up tonight?" "I can help you." Cora teased him deliberately. "Help me shower, too?" Cole was speechless. If Cora needed him to, he wouldn't say no, but he was afraid things would get messy. After all, the scene in the bathroom last night had been enough to throw him for a loop. "I'm just kidding. I can use my left hand. If that doesn't work, I can wear a waterproof glove." Cole wasn't in a good mood right now, so Cora didn't continue to tease him, afraid it would backfire. Her only goal was to distract him for a little while. It seemed to be working. Cole probably wouldn't try to kill himself again. She had seen the date on the tombstone, too. Why had Cole's grandmother died on that particular day? What happened in between? Was it related to the wedding? Cora was an extremely rational person. She was good at weighing pros and cons, and when faced with a problem, she would consider the worst-case scenario and make plans accordingly. Jenna hadn't been home in 5 years. The look on her parents' faces and their tone when they mentioned her, the scar on Cole's leg, and his grandmother's death. All the information pointed her in one direction. Jenna was the culprit. Had Cole thought of this? If it really was connected to Jenna, would he start to hate her, too? The thought that he might hate her made Cora's heart ache. "Let's go buy some flowers for Grandma." It was rare to find a flower shop in a small town. After all, the mountains were full of wildflowers. Romance was a luxury for the townspeople. They would rather spend their money on food and clothing than on flowers. Cole wanted to tell Cora this, but before he could speak, she grabbed his hand and pulled him enthusiastically toward the town center. And the result was, she actually found a flower shop.